The stuff you sent, they got. They got it. Yeah, we gave back to her.
In the absence of the mayor.
It's good to meet you. You waiting for me?
Not really.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Thursday, March 7th, regularly scheduled meeting of the Asheboro City Council. I would like to remind everyone in the room that this is being live streamed on YouTube. Please, council, please speak into the microphone if you're able, and if you address the council from the podium, please know the microphone up there is live. Speak to the microphone if you will. It's one of the first meetings in a while where we didn't have a crowd in the hallway. And so at this point, I'd like to invite each of you to stand and join me in a moment of silent meditation. Our city manager, secretary, Joanne, took a little fall yesterday or the day before and broke her arm. So I'd like to ask you to keep her in your prayers, and we will follow the meditation with the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. To first item of business on the agenda, I'd like to call on our district attorney, Andy Gregson, who will introduce possibly a couple of people, and we'll talk about Project Safe Neighborhoods. Mr. Gregson, welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Thank you for giving me a few minutes tonight. I have two purposes. One is to discuss Project Safe Neighborhoods and give you an update. You and your police department over the last almost 5 years has made a substantial investment in this program. And we understand that. And I think it's my duty to come back to you periodically and tell you where we are. Tonight I brought with me, the other reason I'm going to talk to you is I'm really pleased to be here on the night to honor the retired Chief of Police, Mark Lineberry. And I'll have a few more words to say about Mark and his participation in a minute. I've got with me, you know it's important when I've got the power and the majesty of the federal government with me. Personified in the person of Assistant U.S. Attorney Rob Lang, who is a key player in Project Safe Neighborhoods here in the Piedmont District. I've got Rodney Trogdon, who is the director of Project Safe Neighborhood in Randolph County. And I'm actually really pleased tonight to have one of my assistant DAs, Stoller from Guilford County, Miss Paige Fish, and she lives up in the Archdale Trinity area. and she is here with us tonight. Paige is doing a great job for the people of Randolph County. So, yes, sir.
Not to throw you off base here, but I make this offer more often than not. If you're interested in moving to Asheboro, we'll come help you move.
I've been working on it.
She's a good one. I am blessed that I could not be any happier with my staff as a whole. That's a discussion for another day. You know, it's been said, and it's true, that a community that tolerates violent crime will get more violent crime. And we're seeing that play out in real time across America in the communities that tolerated and even sometimes made excuses for violent crime. And there is no exception. It has not gone well. They engaged in the silliness a few years ago to defund the police. Brilliant idea. It's worked out well everywhere it's been tried, hasn't it? So, about 5 years ago, Randolph County was faced with an unprecedented problem. Things we'd never seen before. Gang violence, drive-by shootings, and we were at a crossroads whether we were going to tolerate that as a community or not. Now, I'll be the first to tell you that you cannot have peace, prosperity, and individual liberty without law and order. Nowhere in the history of mankind has that occurred. There has to be law and order. And you especially cannot tolerate the type of violence that affects the lives and the enjoyment and the pursuit of happiness of your citizens unless you resolve not to tolerate violent crime. And we were at a crossroads. We were seeing things we'd never seen before in this community, and got together with the federal government and with all of law enforcement in Randolph County, and we collectively agreed, of course, that we were not going to tolerate it in this county. Maybe that was unpopular at the time, but that we decided that we were going to give it a shot to go contrary to the prevailing cultural winds and say, no, we're not going to tolerate it. The federal government approached us and said, would you like to talk about Project Safe Neighborhoods? And we had talked about it years before, and we jumped on it. And we jumped in with both feet. And your chief, Lineberry, was a chief at that time here in Asheboro. And I will tell you that most of this type of violent crime was occurring within the city limits of this city. Now, it was spilling over out into the county. We were seeing a little bit of it in other municipalities, but most of it was occurring right here. And we knew that this was going to be a heavy lift. And I've told you before that Project Safe Neighborhoods is simply a formal partnership between the federal government, their prosecutors, DEA, ATF, all the other alphabet agencies, probation and parole, DA's office, and law enforcement. And that partnership is very formalized and very structured. There's a lot of things you got to do to get ready. It took us about 2 years to get ready. And at the heart of the program is that we're going to change the way we do law enforcement as it relates to violent crime. We're going to share information across agency lines. We're going to discuss these cases. We're going to work together and establish real partnerships to go after the people who are driving the violent crime. And that began with almost a year-long study of who these people are. The federal government brought a lot of resources to the table through some statisticians that work for UNC Greensboro, and we figured out who these people were. Then we went to work on who their friends are. What is their gang? Where do they hang out? Who's their girlfriend? Who's their boyfriend? Where do they live in other jurisdictions? And so on. And that took a long time. And then when we started the program, we went out into the community and said, we got to give these people an alternative, at least the ones we maybe can save. And so lots of community pieces come together so that when we get all these bad guys together, we can say to them, you got a choice this day. You're going to take advantage of the people in the back of the room and hopefully walk out of here and change your life, and we don't have to deal with you because it's a whole lot cheaper and easier for you to change your lives. But if you don't change your lives, everybody in this room has resolved to bring down the power of the state and the federal government on your head. I'm not going to apologize for targeting. You know, that gets a bad rap. It's a fair word. you put your target on your back by your extensive criminal violent history. And so that began the program. Now, the program requires,
You may want to tell the council, a lot of these folks we were working were extremely violent.
yes,
Murdered people, shot people.
yeah.
I mean, they're really tough, violent.
Yeah, these are not people that drive drunk. We're not targeting those people. We're not targeting people who shoplift. These are people who are carrying guns on a regular basis. They're shooting up people's houses and cars. They're shooting each other, and they're not just doing it here, but they're doing it in jurisdictions all around us. You watch the news, you know what I'm talking about. So we began almost 5 years ago this program, and it required a lot of law enforcement. This was a heavy lift. We said to law enforcement, you're going to have to share intelligence, you're going to have to work together, you're going to have to dedicate TFOs to help us out with the federal cases, and you're going to have to, when you find a gun, you're going to have to come into a room periodically and go through a very uncomfortable screening process where that case is picked apart and talked about, and the intelligence is shared, and we decide who is the best, federal or state, to prosecute that individual. And there's a lot of meetings. There's lots and lots, unfortunately, especially for your executives, a lot of meetings to get this thing off the ground. We're just now seeing the fruit of this. And the fruit is undeniable. For the first time since I've been in this county prosecuting cases in Superior Court since March 1st of 1994, we did not have a murder in 14 months. That's at a time when counties around us had record numbers of murders. Not just bad years, but record numbers. Now, not any program no program is going to stop certain types of murders. You're not going to stop domestic violence. You're not going to stop two drunks fighting, stabbing. That's not what this program is for. This program is aimed at the people who are affecting the life and the liberty of the citizens of the community, because you can't sit on your porch. You can't let your kids play on the street for fear of stray bullets. You can't go to the convenience store at 10 o'clock at night without being afraid of getting robbed. That's the kind of crime we're after to have an impact on. And it has been a success primarily because of law enforcement in this county. And the reason why I'm making this tour is because I want to say thank you to the employers of every agency in this county. I just did the sheriff's office with the county commissioners on Monday night. But I am here really to say to you that thank you for the investment you made in allowing your police department to engage in this. And you also, to kind of challenge you, that you should be proud of this. You should be proud that your agency bought into it. I mean, you should be proud that Mark Lineberry saw, like good government officers ought to do, he saw that we had to be proactive instead of reactive. And he got on board early enough to where we could clamp down on this problem and make it impact. And so, you know, I'm just really proud to have worked with Mark Lineberry. The city, you know, owes him a great deal of gratitude for the hard work he did and the way he pushed his agency to embrace this program. And so I just want to thank Mark Lineberry tonight. And I also want to thank all the officers of the Asheboro Police Department who have bought into this and sacrificed their time. And I think they see the value in it too. So that's really why I'm here tonight. And I just want to ask a couple of people to come up just a few minutes to kind of give you their perspective of it. We'll let Rob Lane come up, and then Rodney, if you would just grant me that latitude. Rob, come on up.
Thank you so much, Andy, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Glad to be here on behalf of Sandra Hairston, who's the United States Attorney for 24 counties, 3.5 million people. This is one of our favorite spots. I'm here for 3 reasons. Him, because he is my partner. He's my partner in stopping violent crime. Rodney, who's one of the best coordinators in the 12 PSN sites we have across our district. He set the structure up and let the model work, but mostly for Chief Lineberry. I get to work with 127 law enforcement agencies in our district. I've been here for 27.5 years. I've been in this thing for 38 years. And one of the greatest pieces, one of the greatest parts of my job is I get to work with all these agencies and watch how their management styles are, sheriffs and chiefs and agency heads. And it is just phenomenal to see somebody who's a quiet leader who's willing to spread the credit around to his people and empower his people to step up and do great things, which what they've done. I think they were doing it before we came in here with this strategy, but they've done it in spades. They came for the trainings. They came and upped their game. They're ready and prepared. You ought to see his people at these meetings. They're ready. They're bringing the intelligence. They're making us to be able to get the information so we're making the best decision possible about who needs our resources, who we allocate for our limited resources in both state and federal. And what we'll find out in some of these meetings, one of these guys, we got a good gun case, he's a felon, he's not supposed to have a gun. He's only 19 years old. Well, then somebody says, you remember when he shot that guy and the girl backed up and we never even couldn't bring a charge? All of a sudden, he's a shooter. And the prosecutors wouldn't have known it unless the law enforcement put all that in the bag and we could come out and make the best decision possible. So this has been a joy to be down here. We have all these sites. In some of these places, I got to manage it. I got to set the agendas. I got to show up and do about 50% of the work. Here, we came down. We spent a lot of time at the beginning. We helped get the model, helped get the training out. Now we'll pull out. We're a partner. That's all we are, is a partner. We come to the meetings. We take our cases. And, we come when necessary, when we can help a little bit, but we're not driving this. This is driven locally. This is driven by your leaders in your county, in this city. And it fits to what you have going on here. That's why it's working perfectly here. The model is strong, the meetings, people are making time to come to the meetings, to come with the right information at the executive level and at the frontline law enforcement level. There's also levels going on in the community. There's other things going on with people coming back from prison because they're some of our most repeat customers. That's the highest, especially in the violent arena. Those folks reoffended at a 60 to 70% rate. So to provide some opportunities so that they don't, that's smart business. And that's what's going on in this county in the second and third phase of this. So it's a privilege to be here. But I want to thank Mark publicly. I tell you, it's just, I was out of town, or I would have been to the county commissioners on Monday. I was telling my buddy that I was playing golf with about what it's like to work with a guy like him. And I told him because I missed his thing last week because I was gone. And it's just an honor. Thank you so much for having the foresight to select him. I know Robbie's going to be good, and you got good people here. And thank you so much, and we're glad to continue to be a partner.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Mayor, council members, just real quickly, it sounds like a lot of work, and it was and it is, but these guys, they make it a whole lot easier for me. When he says director, coordinator, whatever it is, I'm a part-time employee. There's no way, as much as they act like this, it's such a struggle that I could do it part-time if I didn't have good partners. And speaking of that, Chief Lineberry and all the police officers in this room have been in a meeting or been a part of this process that I can remember. But one of the best things that we've done, and you guys did, was the TFO. That has been invaluable because I venture a guess, we could get the numbers, I don't have them, so I apologize for that, but there's probably been 40, 50 cases taken from this county federally.
And the TFO is Task Force Officer. So we have an officer assigned to the DEA, Drug Enforcement Administration. We have an officer who works with the ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. We have an officer that works with Homeland Security Investigation.
Yes, sir. And those make a world of difference. One of the things that's been really great to see from my perspective, because I was a probation officer for 32 years. And so I knew that we worked in our silos. And I knew that sharing information was key because we're all chasing the same people at the end of the day. And we're all dealing with the same people at the end of the day. So bringing that together, that information and the cooperation and the collaboration, and I've heard D.A. Gregson say it many times, it's the best he's ever seen it in the county. We had a particular instance in Ramsey was a pretty bad crime. Liberty sent a detective, the sheriff's office sent a detective. I can tell you in my career, those times you didn't hear that. So that's what makes a difference, sharing that information, getting together, be willing to do it. And so that's what's made it special, that's what's made it work, and folks have stuck to it, and the energy's still there. I think the last gun screening that we had, Rob sent me an email thanking me for it. He said because some of the places he's seen, they don't have the energy that Randolph had. And we were sitting around talking and just, congregating after the meeting. and sharing just, you know, our friendship. So that all has worked good, but most of that locally is because of you guys and what you've done with the police department and what these guys do, and I greatly appreciate it. I no longer live in Asheboro, I'm in Seagrove, Mayor. But, I'm sorry. If she comes from Archdale, we'll see if we can find a house, and then we'll work it out. But yeah, but but it's still, it helps across the county and especially in the city. So I appreciate what you guys have done. I appreciate what the PD's done, and Chief Lineberry and Chief Brown coming in. He's been a part of this thing from the get-go as well. So the transition, I'm hoping and expecting, is going to be smooth, and we're just going to keep rolling on and hopefully continue to have the success we've been having. Thank you.
Thank you, Rodney.
So I'll end it real quick with two stories. One is the case he's talking about is one of the worst cases I've ever seen in 35 years of prosecuting. It's the murder of a baby. It's the torture and murder of a baby. And it happened in Ramsor. And bless their heart, Ramsor just doesn't have a lot of resources. And this kind of case is a challenge for anybody. And what happened because of the partnerships out of PSN is Liberty said to the Ramsor chief, he said, take my detective, he's yours. For as long as you need it, he's yours to help you with this case. The county came in and said, what do you need as far as crime scene process? And they're yours, take them. We'll take all the electronics and we'll download them, and that's a complicated process. So for the first time in my career, what I saw is because of these partnerships, law enforcement working together, that's a sea change. I hope you recognize that. Second thing I'll leave you with is how we know this program is working is we listen to their jail calls all the time. They know we're listening. Well, they're told. Clark's laughing because it's usually his clients. And let me tell you what we're hearing them say. We're hearing them say, stay out of Randolph County. They're picking on us. They know who we are, and they're not playing games. Those are words that actually come out of their mouth. And it's the ones that we've got in there for very, very serious crimes. Now, that warms the cockles of my cold prosecutor's heart to hear something like that. That means I'm doing my job, because I'm not a social worker. That's not my job. And so if they choose to play their game somewhere else, that's on that other jurisdiction to get their stuff in order and to have a project-safe neighborhood. So we've done our job, and you should be proud to have people like your chief, like your current chief, Robbie, and your command staff, but also your officers are really, really stepping up. Even though they're young, they're doing great work, and they're taking their mission seriously. So I thank you. That's what I'm here for. Taking enough of your time. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. DA. Let me add my thanks to you. I know you've been working with Rodney and the crowd on Project Safe Neighborhoods for a long time, and that's paying off. But what impressed me the most was when we convened that group down at the county building and had just about every agency and service provider in attendance, and you stood up and said, we're not going to put up with this. We're going to nip it in the bud. We're going to stop. We're going to, whatever you need, we'll provide, whatever we can do to help. And that has made a big difference in our community. I appreciate you and your buy-in and the buy-in of all your staff. And Chief Lineberry can attest to the cooperation, and Chief Brown, I don't think you'll miss a beat. And what is important to all of us is that while Randolph has all these different little municipalities, we're one county and we're all in this together. So we will do all we can do to support you and your efforts, because I know you're supporting our efforts. And I told a couple of our new promotions that they would not have been put in those positions of authority and command structure if they weren't up to the job. So we do have good officers, and we expect to continue to work with all of you and make sure that everything you do hear out of the jail down there is more of the same. Do not waste your time in Asheboro, Randolph County. So thanks for being here. Appreciate your work. And you can live here too. All right, part of the authority that comes with the mayor is, the authority to delegate. And while I have worked very closely with, former Chief Lineberry for a while now, and he's done well and represented us well, he was actually an employee of John Ogburn, and I'm gonna ask John to make this next presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief Lineberry, if you'd come up, Chief Brown, you can come up. I think tonight was the first time I've ever called him on.
Yeah, don't hear that much.
Come around this side.
Okay.
It's my distinct honor on behalf, Chief, come on up, on behalf of the citizens of Asheboro, Mayor Smith and our council, to present the service plaque to Art T. Lineberry, Chief of Asheboro Police, for dedicated service to the police department, dedication to the city of Asheboro. He came, May the 4th, 1992, and he served till February 29th, 2024. And it's been a distinct honor and privilege. It's been we had to work with COVID together. We forgot that part too, you know. But unfortunately, did crime stop during COVID? No. So, and if you've been to a PSN meeting, the invitees, yeah, your guests, right? It's somebody. The one I went to that time, somebody slept through that one. Remember that? I think that was the first guy we got.
He went to prison.
Yeah, he is fast. So, no, thank you all for being here on behalf of all of us. Thank you for all you've done.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
As far as saying to you, what I love to say to you is that what they all said about the partnership that you had outside the department, we actually knew about the partnership you had within the department, especially me. He was one of my first training officers, so coming a long way. He and I definitely came a long way together, and I definitely want to say that I certainly appreciate everything that you did for me, and we would like to present your weapon to you.
Thank you.
And for all your leadership you showed.
Appreciate that. Appreciate all of it. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for that. If I could just thank the council again, the mayor, Mr. Ogburn, just like I did the other day. But I need to mention, the employees of the city, from top to bottom. That's a priority, and I'm sure it's a priority for y'all. I know there's a lot of projects, but the employees is what makes this city go, makes the police department run. And PSN, and I'm sure Chief Brown will tell you when his time comes on the stats for last year, but you'll see a reduction in violent crime, just as Andy talked about, like 20-some%, I believe, in Part 1 crime. But I also want to thank City Attorney Jeff Sugg for all the help through the years, and my HR director there, Mr. Kemp, who listened to me in all my plans and called the meetings, and some of them went through and some of them didn't. And thank you, Ms. Reeves, for working with me on the finance stuff. So, and then all the other people I work with in the city, it's been great. It's been a week. I'm staying busy, so, but I think the Asheboro Police Department will always keep moving forward. It has for 32 years. I think I worked for 5 chiefs, and we rode on after all of them left, and they'll roll on after I'm gone, which is, well, I am gone. So, and of course, thank you, Andy, Rodney, Rob.
It's been great, and I think we did make a big difference there, and I'm sure we'll continue in that way. But thank you all.
And Chief, want to introduce your wife?
My wife Paula's with me. She's buying my supper tonight. Unless I can get the city credit card. But thank y'all all.
All right, if there's anybody that would like to leave at this point, I will take a very brief recess, let you clear the room. Thank you. Thanks for being here. All right, next on the agenda, I'd like to call on Chamber of Commerce Vice President Amy Rudisill. You have some retail sales numbers for us, and we like to track those because for the last few years, they keep going up.
That's right. Well, good afternoon or good evening. See, I was so worried I was going to say good morning since Clark said that when he walked in. So good evening, Mayor, City Manager, and council members. Great to be here tonight.
Doug, close the door, please.
Oh.
Go ahead.
So yes, Mayor, you were talking about the retail sales or taxable sales. So it's very interesting when you look at these numbers, and people back here can't see that, but I do have some handouts here if people would be interested. You can all read that, so if you're interested in having some of that. I don't know that I have enough for
It's
everyone.
on the screen up here.
It is, but I don't have my glasses. I'm not sure that they can read those numbers, but they can see the charts
It
there.
wasn't
So,
on my screen here, I couldn't read it.
really, so I should have just cut some of those numbers. But for some of you that do like to see the trend, I think it's very impressive. So I will just share that the Asheboro Randolph Chamber does get these numbers for the North Carolina Department of Revenue. So we do try to track retail sales as it shows for Randolph County, and it's very good information to know. So as you can see, on 2023, we have hit the mark and we exceeded $2 billion in retail sales or taxable sales for 2023. So that is very impressive. And then even looking at some of the past numbers as an increase, it's also the largest increase over, well, the chart that's up here actually goes back to 2012. So from 2022 to 2023 was a 22.37% increase. And so that is the largest increase when you look back at all those years. And then the chart on the left, the bar chart shows that the last chart is for 2023, so that just shows that increase compared to, and that those are listed by month. So huge increase of the past years as well, looking at 2023. And then also the chart on the right shows a line graph just showing that gradual increase up. And so the what we hit for 2023 is $2,197,527,279. So really, when you just look at that, that's very extensive for what is here in Randolph County. And I will just say that for some of us that like convenient shopping and shopping on Amazon and things such as that, that money doesn't stay here. But this, I mean, that's huge. That money goes and it supports our local economy. So it is very important to shop local in Randolph County, because then that goes back to the fire departments, the police departments, and all of the businesses here to support local.
Goes into our general fund, and that's money we as taxpayers don't have to pay.
That's right, that's right, yep. So,
And if you guys will call back to last month, the auditor mentioned our uptick in sales tax receipts. Thank you.
you're welcome.
It seems striking that our biggest months are June and July, and I think that sort of underscores what we've tried to do about attracting outside folks
That's right.
to come in for tourism, and when schools are not in session, people vacation, come into the.
That's true.
And the
Vacation.
traveling with the interstate designation out there, if you go to the hotels out on Dixie Drive, you'll see Michigan and West Virginia and Pennsylvania and Ohio. So this is a pretty good place to stop and spend the night.
And just think with the Zoo City Sportsplex, what's that's gonna look
Right.
like, in this year.
I remember how excited we were in 16 when we had just crept above $1 billion in sales. And the numbers just keep increasing. So, with the Sportsplex and some of the other things we've got, our tourism, it can only get better.
That is for sure.
Any other questions for Amy? Thank you so much, Amy.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Okay, next on the agenda will be North Carolina Director of American Diabetes Association, Katie Rose Crater. And you're already up there. Okay, you're anxious to get going, are you?
Well, no, but I figured I might as well be prompt.
Go right ahead.
Hey, y'all, my name is Katie Rose Crater. I am the state director for the American Diabetes Association. So I am your person for all things diabetes related, and that's probably includes about 50% of you all, because 50% of adults in the United States have diabetes or prediabetes, and 85% of people who live with prediabetes don't even know they have it. And that's just not a sugar issue. That's what will cause blindness, amputation, kidney failure, heart disease, and early death, on top of major medical bills. Costs a person living with diabetes or prediabetes about $16,000 extra a year in North Carolina just to live with diabetes. So it's and it's also hard on your family and the people who you love. In addition to that, we're seeing a 700% increase in the number of children diagnosed with diabetes in the next 30 years. And that's a number from the CDC. So that means our kids are going to be facing amputation, blindness, kidney failure, heart disease, and all kinds of other vascular issues. So we can and should do better. So the American Diabetes Association is doing everything that they can to do better and to support our communities in having the resources that they need to do better as well. One of the ways that we are doing that is with our signature fundraising cycling event, which is coming to Asheboro and hopes to call Asheboro home for many, many, many years to come. It's called the North Carolina Tour de Cure, and the whole goal is to raise money and increase awareness about diabetes and to support the mission of the American Diabetes Association. The ADA is the largest nonprofit dedicated to all types of diabetes in the world. We're also the governing body for all decisions made about care of diabetes, and we also create the standards of care that every single physician in this country uses when they care for someone living with diabetes. So, so we're here. We picked Asheboro. I picked Asheboro. I'm from Clayton, North Carolina. I grew up in North Carolina, and when I was looking at good routes, a great community, a place to have a good party, hotels, and it's in the center of the state. I couldn't find a better place, and I wouldn't find a better place than Asheboro, so we picked it. The best part about this cycling event, which is on May 18th, is that you are going to see about 500 C-suites coming in here. So think about who can ride a bike, who's going to ride a bike. It's going to be somebody who's got some money. It's going to be somebody who can spend $5,000, $6,000, $10,000, $15,000 on a bike, and that's probably just one of their bikes. There's also a lot of gear, and they enjoy their food, they enjoy their beer, and they enjoy their bikes. So these guys and gals are going to be coming on May 18th. Maybe about 500 of them this year. I'm hoping for about 1,000 in the next several years. I have had this event before in years past. It used to go from Cary to Aberdeen and back, and we used to have about 1,000 cyclists and raise over $500,000. So we're bringing it here, and I cannot wait. So we need all the support of the community to make this thing happen. We are hoping for sponsors. We are hoping for our businesses to get involved. And anybody you know that's living with diabetes, bring them out. They can volunteer, they can ride their bikes if they want. But the goal here is to bring something that's going to be really meaningful to the community and also profitable to the community. And so I'm excited. I have a ton of print materials for y'all. There's opportunities for local businesses to get involved as well. Table's already doing our coffee and our breakfast. Four Saints is our beer sponsor, so we're already having a good time. So does anybody have any questions?
Where are they gonna be riding?
They're going to ride all around Randolph County.
Oh, okay.
So they're going to go down to Seagrove, go up and around, go over Burkhead Wilderness and Caraway Mountains and come back.
So hike heels.
Yeah, we're gonna make them
I
suffer.
guess the Cary Aberdeen was just too easy.
It was too easy. It went downhill. It just, wasn't too great. Yeah. So we thought we'd give them a challenge.
Every mile you go downhill, you gotta go back.
That is very true. And I'm a cyclist myself, so I know the pain I'm about to put them through too. I did it and didn't care, which is
You got
not
any
good either.
quarter-mile routes?
We have a 5-miler.
I'm more that fellow on the gold wing riding the cameraman.
We do actually need motorcycle support. So we need motorcycle support, we need volunteers, everything, so you name it. And also, North Carolina Community Emergency Response Team is coming out, so you're gonna have all of your emergency response people from the state of North Carolina coming out. All of your ham operators, your amateur radio operators are gonna be out here, so, and it is a professionally managed event. We have a production company coming out from Oregon to manage this thing. So it's going to be well done.
Sounds exciting.
It's gonna be great.
And I tell you, if your enthusiasm is any indicator, it's gonna be wonderful.
It's gonna be an amazing event. Thank you. Well, thank you very much, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Downtown Asheboro Executive Director Eddie Corder. You're up, Eddie.
I'm here on very serious business. We need to talk about the summer concert series. Before I get started, I have to give Pam Hester all the praise. She has been so great to work with to bring the 2-part summer concert series, both Friday and Sunday nights, to Asheboro. This thing has really grown over the past, this will be year 4 since we've added the Friday night concert series. And it's a pleasure to work with Pam. We have lined up 9 concerts for this summer. There will be 4 Friday night concerts and 5 Sunday night concerts. And if it's any indication of how much this community loves Asheboro and these concert series, through the generous support of our sponsors, we have raised over $90,000 to cover and bring these incredible concerts to downtown. So the last thing I'll say before I officially announce our lineup is I'm really, really grateful for the city staff that you all have. I call Debbie and David and Jimmy and Trevor and anyone and everyone as things arise with this concert series, and they're all willing to step in and help in any way they can in their capacities. So I'm just really grateful to work with the city staff team, and you guys are in good hands with them. Now, let's get to the good stuff. So, we're going to kick things off on Friday nights, May 31st, by bringing back On the Border, the Ultimate Eagles Tribute Group. That one was highly requested and loved. It brought over 5,500 people into Bicentennial Park, and we're excited to bring them back to get things started. In June, we're taking it to the year 2000, and we're bringing Larger Than Life, the Ultimate Boy Band Tribute. So whether you love NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, Boys to Men, New Kids on the Block, Jackson 5, or One Direction, we have all of your decades covered, and it should be a good night. In July, we're going 90s country and bringing Doug Bruin's tribute to Alan Jackson. That is July 12th. And then to wrap it all up, we're going out in the 80s with Cassette Rewind, the ultimate 80s experience. We will have opening acts for these concerts, and those are being provided by Rhino Leap Productions through their network of artists throughout the county, region, and state. The Sunday night concerts will take place starting May 19th by bringing in the Blackwater Band. June 9th, they're bringing a crowd favorite back, which is North Tower. July 21st, they're bringing in the Special Occasion Band. August 11th, we'll have Envision. And to wrap things up, September 8th will be Too Much Silva. So we are really looking forward to this summer. It is such a joy to work with the community on this event. And I will see you all in Bicentennial Park.
Any questions for Eddie?
Mayor, not a question, but just make a comment. Serving on the Downtown Asheboro Inc. board, I just want to say how fortunate we are to have Addie as our executive director. She is doing an amazing job, And it's because of her hard work that we got these sponsorships. So Addie, you're doing fantastic. We are so fortunate to have you here. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Maybe, Katie, next year we can get one of our Friday night shows.
I'd love it, and our people would come. We've already told them it's a whole weekend, and, you know.
We gotta hook that up.
One thing at a time.
We're promoting it as a whole weekend, so get ready. They already know to bring their families, go to the zoo, do all that, so. yeah.
Great. Maybe we can put out a special welcome mat for you on Friday night for
That'd
that,
be super
for
fun.
your event.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Addie. I do appreciate your work. Mr. Reese. Sir. Piedmont Triad Regional Council Assistant Director Matt Reese, who facilitated our planning retreat session last week. And you got some information for us regarding that planning retreat?
Absolutely. And Mayor, council members, thank you for letting me be here, and I apologize up front. I have no exuberant energy to bring to you. I have no update on boy bands, and you can see my effect on the room already. What I do have for you is the synopsis of the hard work that you and your staff did. So you will recall that your staff did a fantastic job of presenting all the projects, providing that detail, in my opinion, being very creative and innovative in some of the approaches that they gave you, and then you all did a fantastic job of being very clear and providing that feedback back to them about what those priorities were. We went through hopefully an engaging process to determine sort of what are some of the overall vision and ideas for where Asheboro can go and what motivates us to prioritize these projects in the order that we did. So I'm going to skip down to the heart of the matter and say that the consensus was reached on that the Trade Street parking was our #1 priority. And it was found to be important and urgent in that. We have some money to move forward on that. It's a project that will help us with our second priority, which is the Trade Street Revitalization Project. That would have a new scope to it based on the discussion and interaction that you had with the staff. That was a really good opportunity to kind of be dynamic on that. And then the third project that had the prioritization was the EOC Fire Station. This combines the federal dollars that you're getting and the project to move that forward, improves the ability to have ISO rating for the city, so it still have some attention put to them. The public transportation project is seen as important but not urgent. Obviously, there's some funding issues that you need to address in that one. The Gerald Garden project is one that we would also look for and seeing what other funding opportunities could be there. It is considered not important or urgent at the moment. That may change as you move forward. And we had some really good discussion on McGray Paul Park. And with that, we need to look at some of the details of the lease and the particulars that go along with that, and that might change and revise that project as it moves forward. And lastly, we noted the need for to develop a capital infrastructure plan with it. That's the synopsis of what we did and how we got to this evening. I'm willing to take any questions that I can from you.
Questions?
I think you summed it up pretty accurately. That's surprising. Right. Good job.
Thank you for helping us step through all.
Sure.
I think that was a comment more about our process than yours.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Well, let me move on to our next item if I can. You all have some interest in moving forward on a search process for an assistant city manager. So you will have in front of you a proposal to receive those services from Piedmont Triad Regional Council. I am blessed to have a wonderful team that comes with me on this project. Two of the folks on it I'm thrilled to have available to you. One is Rhonda Tatum. Rhonda is the former assistant county manager for Forsyth County and just really insightful on a variety of things and has helped with projects that we have run for assessment centers where we were doing work to select the next crop of officers that would advance into command positions in Rocky Mount. She worked closely with me on that project and was really helpful. And then Terry Rivers. I've known Terry most of my career. Terry is the former assistant city manager in Reedsville. So both of those folks are going to be available to me to work with you on the project, to kind of develop what's the vision that you're looking for on that assistant city manager project. That's one that I anticipate would involve interactions with the city council in its entirety, involve obviously lots of direction from management, involve lots of directions from HR, as well as perhaps other members of your staff. So we would facilitate that process, pull together the vision of what you really are interested in seeing. And then ultimately, we want to reinforce back to you that it's your search. It's your process. You all provide that direction to us of how you're looking for, what you're looking for, and we're going to provide the technical expertise that you would need on that. Able to answer any questions you might have.
Matt, the document that we got mentioned a search committee, and I'm assuming that we would have some involvement in determining who would be on that search committee.
Absolutely. I think the process itself has a certain structure to it, but I would really like to hear from you about these are the things that would be important. So one of the first things that we would put forward is, would you like for us to conduct some committee work to have some listening sessions and pull folks together? Is that a listening session of the council? Is that a listening session of top management and staff? Is that a listening session of other folks that you all would deem to be important? And then we'd pull those listening sessions together. It might even be that we use a survey tool to kind of conduct some of that work. And then we come back and present that to you and say, this is what we've heard so far. Does that sound consistent? Does that sound like that's helpful? Does that sound like it's moving things in a good direction? And then at that point, after we've kind of had that work, then you can talk about, okay, this is kind of the structure that we think is going to be good. We want it to be a collaboration between city staff and council. We want a selection of council. So it's really up to you. It's time consuming. So that's where you've really got to figure out, okay, who are the folks who can participate in this and have the time to do that in an effective way, or is there a smaller group that we would want to work with and move forward? Good question.
And I realize that every process is unique and different, but can you talk a little bit about time frame?
Time frame. Wow. It depends.
Yeah,
So
right.
it really, in terms of when you would open it up. Now is a difficult time to open up a search for a manager candidate because it's in the middle of budget season. And so everybody's kind of got that going on. As we get closer and closer to May and June, it is possible that you could open up one and have sort of the full attention of folks and that kind of thing. You really don't want to do anything where folks will say, gosh, I might be interested in that, but I got this other set of immediate fires that are burning and I'm just going to pass on it, right? So you want to try to pick a time if you can where it's in a good season of flow for municipal management, which probably is somewhere at least in the latter part of April, if not May. Then
It may be,
even later than
it may be that it takes us 60 days to 80, 90 days to get this. And
right.
That's kind of what we were thinking, and that kind of lines up. Get the budget done, you get in that May, June.
Yeah.
Have
You can't do A, B, and
candidates.
C in 2 months.
Right.
Right.
Right. It will take a while. It will take a while to get through that body of work. So probably we're looking at getting into the heart of it, I would say, in that October to December timeframe.
Okay.
Again, the more that we can have out of the way before we get into December and holidays and so forth works better for everybody. But then, if we could get to the point of a decision and a commitment by 25, that would really be nice. Is kind of what I'm thinking.
Okay, thank you.
Good question again.
And you may tell them Asheboro's got a pretty good reputation.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm looking forward to selling this product. So, it's great. All the things that you all have talked about tonight, right? The growth that you're seeing, the opportunities to do and leverage the resources that you have in your community, the vision of vibrancy that you have for your community is really, really exciting to be able to do that. And then you've had one of the things that is so important in selling, you've had stability. There's just not a lot of communities that can say that, even communities that do well, right? And there's some big communities that do well, but despite
That part's the north of it.
right. But they may have had multiple managers over the last 6 years, and that's a hard position to sell when you don't have that kind of consistency. And so you've got that consistency. You've got a manager who people know, which is always helpful, right? That they can say, oh, yeah, that's where John Ogburn works, right? And has been there for a while. So that's really, really beneficial to be able to have that. And we want to take our time. We want to make a good decision on it. So I think there's some really exciting things about it. I think that we can, I'm looking forward to one of the pieces that we try to do is it's called a position profile. And so, yeah, we're going to talk about the job, but then we're also going to talk about Asheboro. And so I really look forward to putting together that document with you and seeing what are the things that you really want to highlight and sparkle about the special place that Asheboro is.
So if that's okay with the council, Mayor, there is a contract in your packet. That is $7,000 for the PTRT's professional services is a budgeted item. And if we talked about it in the budget process, you know, last spring, and so now's the time. So you've heard what the project is, and we would ask that this be approved so Debbie and I can execute it. Like I said, the money's in the budget, and we can begin the process.
Well, and I'll just comment that having been peripherally and directly involved with some searches recently, the fee is, I'm extremely appreciative of that. Very appreciative of that.
And I would remind the council that the PTRC, we do have a contract with, a standing contract, that they do our pay and classification analysis for us. So they're down here a lot. Matt, of course, knows me and Jeff and Debbie, Trevor, but he also knows our rank and file people, you know, so he'll have a good handle on, you know, the bottom of the pay triangle and the top of the pay triangle.
Any other questions? May I have a motion to approve this contract by reference?
I'll move we approve the contract by reference.
Have a motion by Ms. Heath. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Bell. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Reese. Good to have you here tonight. Look forward to working with
Do you
you.
remember when do you have a founding date of the Piedmont Triad, the original?
Indeed, 1968, so we've been at it about 65
So Asheboro has been in since the beginning.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, yeah, one of the original
Part of
members.
that founding group.
Yep.
Yeah, we appreciate all of the participation. Mayor, thank you for being a delegate. Thank you. Father serves as one of our chairmen. So Asheboro has been just a really important part of who and what we are. So our privilege to offer our services, the price that you get them, it's a cooperation. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Sugg, you got some social district regulations to discuss with us?
Yes, sir. And I'll go ahead and tell you up front, there will be two actions we'll request. One will be the ordinance adoption, if you're satisfied with the ordinance, and the second part will be a resolution adoption. The ordinance adoption pertains to simply making the change that was discussed at the last regular meeting. You have up on the screen what was originally labeled as option D. It's now been changed to reflect the March 14 proposed effective date of this. The only other change in the existing ordinance, the only change is to expand the boundary roughly in order to, for lack of a better phrase, to try to prevent any piecemealing it or continuing to talk about it over very frequent periods of time, to lengthen it out. The boundary is extending over to the eastern margin of Fayetteville Street. It goes down Worth Street until you get to publicly owned property, such as it goes to where you hit the Register of Deeds office on the south side, basically the crosswalk at Lawyers Road on the north side of Worth Street. It also expands and goes down to, on Sunset, down to where roughly where Hamilton's and the Masonic Lodge driveway is at. And like I said, that was option D. Now it's amends the ordinance to make it reference the map as March 14, 2024. We think that gives us enough time, if you approve this, for staff to put up markings to set the boundary. And that also coincides with the opening of the social district on a Thursday to line it up for when that goes into effect, so we don't have a change in the middle of that 3-day period. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Anybody? Well, once again, you've done a good job of explaining it.
Y'all
No
gave me
question.
guidance, so it made it easier.
Pardon?
You gave me good guidance of what you wanted, so it made it easier.
I'll entertain a motion to amend the social district boundaries by reference.
Mayor, I move we adopt the ordinance by reference with the Zoo City Social District modification.
Have a motion by Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Moffett. Discussion.
I'd like to say that, I've struggled with this last month because I voted against this element of it. And I realized I did that after I did it, but the vote happened. And I must say, that's probably the first mistake I've made in 16 years of sitting up here. But anyway.
Sure scorekeeping.
Yeah, but you know, as we talk about things here in Asheboro, you know, alcohol is one of those things, it's kind of like Civil War, people still fighting it. So, but with that said, as I said to Mr. Moffett, it was the second time we did this, expanded, and I voted in favor of something, and he looked at me and I said, well, we've already approved this, so this is more of a management thing. So I can be in, I will be, well, call for the vote, Mayor, and you'll see how I vote.
No hint?
You should call the question, Mayor.
Any other comments? Okay, have a motion, by Mr. Bell and a second by Mr. Moffett to adopt by reference the new boundaries as outlined by the attorney. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. Mr. Sugg?
Oh, I think we're going to do a separate resolution.
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
That is correct. There's
Oh.
a second action on this. And this, the only reason I have to have it second is because that was the ordinance, this is the resolution. There's the Zoo City Social District Management and Maintenance Plan. It needs to be updated as well to reflect the change in the boundary. It also will have an effective date of March 14. And unless there are any questions, would recommend adoption by reference of the resolution.
Questions? May I have a motion?
Mayor, I move that we adopt the resolution by reference regarding the management and maintenance plan for the social district.
I have a motion by Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Heath. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? You actually did tell me that we had 2 actions to take, and I just,
You have a lot going on.
Yeah.
No problem.
once again, I'm asleep.
No problem.
Kelly knows that's true. All right, let's see here. All right, urban archery. Mr. Sugg.
Yes, sir. There's not a lot of change except for what you specifically directed in the last meeting. That specific change is that the regulations now, if you decide to adopt the urban deer hunting program, it bans the use of a crossbow within Asheboro. So it only, no longer would the crossbow be included. As a consequence, all references to bolts they've been removed from the regulations, so it's just arrows that would be fired from the bow. And I'll also, as the government attorney, I never miss an opportunity to clear up something that I had left vague in previous resolutions. In the actual ordinance, in the ordinance in the Code of Asheboro, it previously said, under subsection C, it's unlawful for a person to shoot or project any arrow, shot, pellet, stone, rock, or other hard substance by means of a bow, air rifle, pellet gun, paintball gun, pop gun, slingshot, bean shooter, or any other similar type of device. Well, now that it's on the radar about a crossbow, that section is amended to say it's prohibited to shoot or project any barrel bolt, and then later on, crossbow is specifically added just to make it clear. Within the manual that is adopted as part of the Code of Asheboro, there also is one additional change we hadn't talked about, and that was, I realized from doing some research, some entities that felt the need, and it seemed like, I felt like you probably wanted addressed as well, that the issue of poisonous, drugged, barbed, or explosive arrowheads may not be used for taking any game. Some entities felt the need to deal with it, therefore it means someone must have tried it, so therefore in the manual that that's prohibited as well. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have about that. Everything else is basically what you said before. And I will mention one thing, there is a correction, so if you decide to approve this, I'm not trying to influence that, approve it, there is a typo. It's the first day, but it did not get changed to July of 2020. Reason for that, February 2023, the first day. If you decide to approve it, I'd ask the motion say to approve, assuming there are no other changes. If it is as is, to approve with the modification of the effective date. The reason July is that if you approve by April the 1st, and I'll take care of this on your behalf if you approve the ordinance, I need to send a letter to the Wildlife Resources Commission about the urban archery season, saying the city wishes to participate, and they'll want a map, and we'll take care of that and send it to them so it can be published when the time comes for the season in January and February of 2025. April 1's the deadline for that. The manual, which is for the police department to work on implementing, it may very well be during the budget, we were talking earlier about the budget process, it may very well be that because of the time spent on the proficiency test and the work they do, you may want to charge a fee for the permit, this local permit to do that. I'm not trying to advocate for a particular amount. I'm not saying it should be large. That's something to be worked out if you so choose in the budget process. But whatever you choose, a July 1, 2024 effective date, it does not impair any ability to hunt because the season wouldn't happen before then. And it also allows for that issue to be addressed. So,
What other places charges a fee? Do you have any idea?
I am not sure. I believe off the top of my head, Pittsburgh may. I can't be positive about that. Pittsburgh may, not positive.
I mean, the proficiency test is somewhat of a barrier as well.
And a lot of people don't, and a lot of places may not have their own permits. If they don't have their own permit issue, you lose the rationale for why.
Who's gonna be responsible for majorly enforcing this? Our police department or the wildlife people?
The city police department will have the main role as far as the unique aspects of the Asheboro regulations. Wildlife resources officers certainly are empowered to enforce any law, any regulation, but as you would expect, they're going to be focused on the general hunting regulations. But I will tell you, in talking with the Wildlife Resources Enforcement Officer for this area, he has been very gracious and was volunteering to work with the city police department as they implement the program and being helpful as a resource for that. So they've been very helpful. But I think their focus would be primarily general state hunting laws. The city police would deal with.
So we'll be paying a policeman to do this. So therefore, it sounds like we should for a fee then.
Well, I think it ought to be a significant fee, $50 or $100, because personally, I feel like
Harry gonna be out there shooting the arrow if you don't.
that's I've got many concerns, but it's gonna be complaint driven if you have any enforcement at all. And I just a lot of concern about what sort of tragedy is gonna precipitate that complaint. We don't even want nobody striking a match and burning leaf pipe. You know?
And I certainly am not advocating to jump ahead to talk about the fee. The first issue is, are you going to approve it or not? But that all comes up as far as why the effective date of July 1 was suggested, if you choose to adopt the ordinance.
You know, at one time, we talked about hiring some professionals, somebody hiring them, I don't know who paid, to do some herd thinning or,
Culling of the herd.
well, they're too big to catch and neuter and send back out. I don't know why, but it don't work with cats.
Your memory is correct. That issue was brought up, and certainly that can be re-explored. The reason the focus as far as what staff prepared is,
Well, this is free.
like, when I ask questions about that, for example, a biologist with the wildlife says, we gave the example. He said that can be very cost effective on getting a contractor if you have a confined area that's highly regulated. He used the airport as an example. You have a defined area, it's regulated, you're sending them in on a set basis. So he said, but when you start trying to cover a large jurisdiction, the whole area, it becomes much more cost effective from the fiscal side to get volunteer hunters who are going to be allowed to go do that for purposes of herd management.
John, so it says that hunting is allowed only on a tract or parcel of land that is at a minimum 3 acres in size. How many pieces of property do we have that fit that description?
You can group them though.
You can aggregate if you get that worked out with property owners.
If you work out with your neighbors, you can aggregate.
Okay.
And you must have that written permission with you when
Right.
That
you
is
harvest
correct.
deer.
That is
From
correct.
from each individual property owner as the aggregate.
Yeah, but nobody riding down the streets can know who's got what.
Yeah. You're gonna have to work with your neighbors. We do live dense. Just another one, I came up way at 8 o'clock. There was
everything
on Shannon Road. Going up in Rob Elliott's yard, so.
And since you asked that very good question, I will point out, that's one of the things that goes into the local permit, the police department, and the provision, which is 5 of the manual, so section C. At a minimum, the following information must be provided by an individual to the Asheboro Police Department to obtain an urban deer hunt permit. And I'll jump down past some of it to get to this part of documentation describing the property that the prospective hunter intends to use in compliance with the hunting area requirements stated in this manual, and documentation of the property owner's permission for the prospective hunter to use the identified hunting area if the prospective hunter does not own in question. So it's just a way to try to get to, is it a serious application? Are they in a position to do?
So the hunter's got to go out and get people and sign up property owners, is that what we're saying?
They would have to be able to show that they've managed to find a minimum 3 acre area in which they can hunt under this program.
Ahead of time? I mean, in other words, they said, we've identified 4 different 3 acres.
And they,
Know that perspective, I mean, ahead of time.
for to get the permit, they're going to have to get the documentation. They've got at least one. Now, they could add, it's very conceivable,
Yeah.
they could add other areas later on. Now, I said, all this is assuming they don't own it, because it makes it clear within, if you own it, that's certainly fine.
Yeah.
But if you don't, with it being the city, urban density, you may have to aggregate to get to 3 acres.
And we came back to that, Ms. Heath, because if you've got an R10 neighborhood, you may have 3 homes per acre. So we wanted enough to your right, left, front, rear that you're coordinating with your neighbors. They've got pets and vehicles and boat in the driveway, and so it's gonna require coordination with your neighbors. We didn't want one person, this person doing it, and this person right here
Right,
feeding deer.
right.
And there may be an instance of that when we get going.
I know we talked about it. How long is this season?
It's going to, under this, it'll be allowed to go with the standard season in the fall.
I mean, which is what?
It's usually a couple of months. I'll defer to the deer hunters on that.
I've never shot a deer in my life.
I've
I
got
used to
it.
hunt back when you had to go somewhere to find them. But it begins with archery season in September?
September, October is when I'm
September, October.
There's archery
And then you go, then you go to muzzle motor season. Yeah.
Quick draw.
We're in the central region, so it's around September, October.
Yeah,
The general.
You name a
get over
weapon, they got
January,
it.
February, or the urban archery.
So the urban archery is concurrent with or post?
It's an extra time
It's
period.
an extra.
Post.
And some cities only participate in the urban archery. And you certainly are free to change the ordinance, but the way the ordinance is drafted, if herd management's the goal, it just seemed like the logical way to present it, for it to be restricted in any way you want, is to say, well, if you're gonna allow it during the extra season in January, February, to allow it also when the general hunting season is in effect.
You know, just, Kelly asked a question, and John gave one example, and I'll give potentially a little antithesis, if you will, of an example. I live down at the end of my road, you know, most y'all know where I live. I own a little over 2 acres.
Yeah.
And across the little city street from me, when that lot was divided out, it didn't have access to sewer, so it was an acre lot. You know, so me and my neighbor set up camp. And I'm telling you, just the difference between our 2 houses. I'm not as strong as I probably never was, but I believe I can get an arrow over his back porch. And that concerns me. I ain't worried about me, I'm worried about him.
But that's
Cause
why.
we've got deer out there eating our little shrubberies and all like that, you know, but they needed trimming.
Like,
But that's why
I can't pass the
Jeff
efficiency
and
test.
the wildlife people and the police have worked so hard and come up with come in, get the permit, get the proficiency test, and we know who you are and where you're doing it.
So me and my neighbor Rob, we need to hire Robin Hood
Yeah.
and the deer slayer. He'd come in there
You do have
and
to,
herd.
hey, you do have to shoot from an elevated position. I mean, yeah.
The rules do say it has to be from a
His
minimum.
neck's that much higher than my yard.
Well, don't aim that way.
And if we hit, and the city's got, what, dang near 3 acres down there for that pump station, so
Yeah.
if the transformer goes to buzzing, don't be calling me.
And just, I feel like I owe you a precise answer. The answer to the question is, for the central area, the deer season for our to October 27 of 2023 for the 23-24 season. The urban deer season was January 13 through February 18.
Jeff,
Didn't
didn't you say at the last meeting, we have to do it by April, or we have to wait a whole year to do it again?
We have to notify Wildlife Resources by April 1.
Okay.
If you're going to participate in the next urban
The next-
archery season.
Can we possibly go ahead and vote to notify them and address, because there seems to be a lot of concerns about this, we're, you know, and I mean, can we notify them and then, I mean, do we have to pass this to notify them? That gets to my question.
Practically, yes. The reason I say, legally, I think you can take any approach you want, but as a practical matter, for us to make an authentic or truthful representation to Wildlife Resources that it's going to happen, we need the action of the city council saying that that you are lifting the prohibition, because without the ordinance being passed, and like you notice, even this ordinance, I'm recommending a prospective effective date, but by taking legislative action, Wildlife Resources is quick to say, they don't get involved in a local decision over whether or not you're going to allow, in this case, arrows. If the city council lifts that prohibition and these limits, then they'll let the hunting laws take over, and they're waiting for the effective about urban archery, which can't happen without changing that general prohibition.
So we could, if we found some stuff that we were concerned about, or I mean, I say found some, rethought of a few things. The start date, actually.
You could remove the exemption. I have to be careful. You can't, the city council can't change any dates.
Right.
What the city council can impact is whether or not an individual is allowed to discharge an arrow or any other projectile within the city. If this ordinance is adopted, you're allowing that exception for the arrow to be discharged within the city.
I just feel like there's gonna be a serious education. People are gonna be educated. It's gonna take a while to do that, and I think that's some apprehension on all our parts.
There'll be some serious whys and why nots.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, people, it's gonna take some time to get the word out that if you do that, you have to do A, B, C, and D.
Well, it's been my experience that most archery hunters are more careful than your rifle hunters.
Absolutely.
I believe that. I believe they're more careful. I believe they know to shoot from an elevated. I think when they renew their hunting license or whatever, and they get their wildlife manual, and here are the seasons, and they're gonna say, oh, Asheboro has, they won't even know it until they see it in that manual, that Asheboro has added an urban season, and here are the dates for the Asheboro urban season. I think I'll be very surprised if we have 100 people sign up to do it.
Okay, one.
Because it's not gonna be your, you might, 25 might be a better number, Mayor. But you're not gonna have a whole lot of people, like Mr. Moffett said, I don't think I can pull a bow to shoot it across my neighbor's deck. You're gonna have experienced hunters who are gonna come out that are serious. And, you know, they're looking at supplementing their food stocks. I know at Phillips Ham, they process deer and they give food away to the different charity organizations to help feed these people who are in food deserts or whatever.
And I would just add, with your permission, this is not me advocating one way or the other, but just as a way of explaining why we are, as a city, was proposed for your consideration, and the city's wanting that interaction with the police department. There are a lot of specific rules that Asheboro, if you adopt this ordinance, has included in, and it would be easy for people to get tripped up if they don't have that interaction with the police department to get the local permit, because just going from the manual, arrows must be fired from the elevated platform that you mentioned earlier, that is at least 10 feet above ground level and oriented toward the interior of the hunting area. Arrows must be fired toward the interior of the hunting area. No archery equipment may be discharged unless the hunter is located at least 100 feet within the exterior property line of the hunting area. This 100-foot buffer established at each exterior property line is an area in which no hunting may occur. No hunting is allowed on, from, or across any public right-of-way. Arrows shall not be propelled within 150 feet of the margin of any public right-of-way. Arrows shall not be fired from nor propelled within 150 feet of any dwelling. Arrows shall not be fired from nor propelled within 300 feet of the property line of any daycare center, educational institution, church, city park, or other location where children are likely to be located. So I just use that, that's not advocacy, that's just to explain why we need the police department to be interacting so they know what's going on.
One question I do have, Jeff, is, because usually a deer won't drop right there. They're gonna run. And if they go beyond your 3-acre area, or whatever acreage you have there, is there anything to do about retrieving deer on somebody's property who perhaps didn't give us permission to, even though we didn't hunt on their property?
Right.
That's where the deer dropped.
The provision, great question, and a legitimate problem. The provision that's currently in here says, hunters shall make every reasonable effort to track wounded deer for the purpose of completing the harvest and recovering the carcass. In the event that a wounded deer cannot be recovered or leaves the permitted hunting area, the hunter shall immediately notify the city police to provide sufficient information to allow police department employees to potentially track and recover. No track wounded deer onto property adjacent to the hunting area without the express permission of the owner of the property that the hunter wishes to enter to track a wounded deer. That got put in because Wildlife Resources made the comment that you will occasionally have disputes because there is no right to go onto someone else's property to try to recover that carcass unless they grant permission.
When he tracks this wounded deer, and, you know, there's the deer, there's the hunter, there's the bow and arrow. How does he finish this process? Just hope or a pistol or a bow at 3 feet? I mean, what, how, I'm sorry for getting down in the weeds. My mind, how does this happen?
Pistol.
Knife.
Knife?
He's gonna, he will finish field dressing it.
Okay, well, you can fix skin it anyhow, I reckon.
Your neighbor's gonna love that.
Yeah.
I can see me giving permission, yeah. Of course, at least it'll leave at that point. I don't, whoever put it there, take it on with them.
It seems to me like a culling program would allow us to be a little bit more targeted and controlled. And I'm no expert on this, but it just seems like something like that might give us closer parameters to follow. Because just because we've got this stuff in this ordinance, I think, Walker, is that part of your concern? Just because we've got it written down, is somebody gonna follow?
Well, look, you know,
What's in
I think
here?
it's pointless to say, you know, there's probably some penalty for hunting, under the influence of alcohol with a firearm and things of that nature, you know, and I'm sure we're not gonna allow it in the social district. And, so that'll take, and the 100-foot buffer, that's an acre of land. Just to have 2 acres, if you're gonna fire inward, you know, from that, so that just leaves 2 acres, but I don't even know how it's gonna be productive in a certain way, but clearly it must be, that's what people come up with, but yes, I mean, people following the rules is, Counselor week make poor decisions.
That's too numerous to count.
I run into him often in the land of poor decision making. They got a building for it over there, dangerous place, you know.
Now, Randleman has had this for a few years, right?
That's my understanding.
We
I
asked
don't know that
them
for a
how that's
fact.
worked. Has anybody had any information from Randleman, how that's worked, or how many deer's been culled or anything?
I haven't received any reliable information about that.
Good to say we're more
Wildlife
urban than
Resources will
Randleman.
give you that information as to how many deer have been culled during urban archery in those
I mean, that
particular
might be
places.
interesting there, you know, how that's worked out for them.
It works out till it don't.
We can dig through Randleman if they got the data. They have a very, minimalistic program, which means urban archery is allowed these dates.
And that's the way some cities do it, and that's like, we're more elaborate in this proposal than a lot of cities are. And that's the point as far as on data collection. This ordinance does attempt to do that, because it does have the provision that during normal office hours, within 72 hours of the harvesting of a deer, a hunter participating in the urban deer hunt shall telephonically report to the Asheboro Police Department records section, gives the number, the time, date, place, and sex of any deer harvested by the hunter. But a lot of places don't ask for that. Something being added.
This is gonna upset a lot of people too, you know, about shooting deer, and so it's gonna go kind of both ways there, I mean, but.
Again, that's why we chose the 3 acres. You gotta coordinate with your neighbors.
I know
I said, can you
Joanne's mad
imagine
about her
the rest of that
shrubbery, now
world?
she told me to vote.
I mean, you know, if you can just imagine a 10 or 12,000 square foot lot with a house on it, and you don't want it, and beside it, you want it, yeah.
And I can't emphasize enough, I'll be happy to go back and research more and change the text, but that's where in order to give you a vehicle to make a decision, what is being offered at this point, happy to take any guidance that you would like.
And Jeff, what I understood you to say, if we had any intention or desire to get it in place for this season, it's gotta be pretty much done this evening.
Well, I think we can do it at any time. I think we have to do it this evening to get it in the publication.
Right, in the digest.
I mean, we
that
could,
they-
yeah, I mean,
When the hunter gets his license, he gets the book.
yeah, I mean, we could do it, but it just wouldn't be in the publication until some other time.
Because I've been informed that we would, once you're inside the publication, the digest.
Say we could not change the date, we couldn't say, okay.
No, once it's published, we can change the date. Right. We could change the date, we voted on it in June, we could say, yeah, we're gonna do it next year. It just wouldn't be in the publication till the next year.
So you understand the same dilemma the staff had in drafting the rules.
Well,
Traditionally, nothing can be discharged inside the city limits. In fact, the first 20 minutes of the meeting, we talked about discharging inside the city limits. So we have tried to the best of our ability to establish something that allows the urban archery deer as well as protects public safety and protects the neighbors around it. Is it ideal? We don't know. I mean, right now, if you adopted it, we would have to run essentially a pilot program. But you can't have a pilot program without adopting the regulations.
Well, I could see this being a reality. I think this is probably as prohibitive as most any in the state. It's not overly, at least in my thinking, but there's places with a whole lot less rules that I would say be way more attractive for the average hunter to go to. The only reason somebody's gonna come here is probably a specific invitation, or thinking maybe the crowd's small. And, you know, and he might find a place or two to do well with it. I think cannot get past, and there is no answer. That deer it's gonna take a mighty clean shot to take a deer down with one arrow. I think. Now, what do I know? But that deer's gonna, and you know, deer ain't gotta go but 100 feet, and he's on somebody else's land, and then what are you gonna go do? Knock on the door? Hey, I think there's about a half dead deer running across your backyard. Do you mind if I stroll over there and see if I can cut his throat? And you know, because that's what's going to be going on. That's the scenario.
And the chances of you doing anything with that deer without a four-wheeler to carry it out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know, he's not going to throw it over his shoulder.
Not anymore.
You know, and then I'm gonna be going, what kind of mess have I got to clean up now if they knock on my door? You know, but I'd be like, finish the job. I don't know what to say.
There's very little finishing the job once you've shot one with a broadhead bow. Okay?
Sooner or later.
Sooner or later, it's gonna bleed out and it's gonna drop, and where it drops is where it drops. It's not gonna it's rarely ever gonna get up and run again. If you've done a good clean shot.
But if it makes 100 feet.
Yeah, if it makes
then
100
you
feet,
got
it's
the
in
property
some,
problem.
yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
That was my concern across
Are you
the.
capable of picking it up and toting it out of there?
I am.
And can you imagine, you know, I personally know people that thought it was a clean shot. They said, no, you can't get on my property. And they'll get their four-wheeler and go get that harvest that deer.
Yeah, so it's,
Tell you, a friend of mine has been hunting his farm for 30 years. And in those 30 years, he's killed, I think he says 6 or 8 deer in excess of 200 pounds. This year, he's killed over a dozen, over 200 pounds. So I can't pick up a 200-pound deer and drag it out of there. And
I can't even shoo one off.
and good chance I'm not gonna let you take your four-wheeler across my property to.
It gets down, if you gotta have this many rules, if they talk about doing something, are we going around our elbow or something didn't need to do it?
Yeah,
That's
that's
Yeah.
why something.
That's why.
You know, I don't know I'm not yay or nay about this, I'm just asking.
We, as a staff, we found, didn't Stanford have 10 acres?
They had a smaller number, but they wouldn't let you aggregate, was the issue.
Yeah.
They had
So,
what?
I think you had
They
to
would
have,
not let you aggregate.
wouldn't let you aggregate.
What does the zoning people say, if I can say, I won't get it right, but where is urban is municipal and what is rural is hopes? But you get my point, you know, I'm not sure we're bringing the country to the urban, and was that really a good thing?
Well, and John, you and staff did what we asked. I mean, you did what we asked in producing this, but I feel like there's enough
It is
concerns.
far from perfect.
I just feel like there's enough concerns that we just should table it.
Okay.
well, so that we have to do something,
make
I'm
a
gonna go
motion.
ahead and make a motion that we approve this, ordinance, to establish an urban archery deer hunting season within the city of Asheboro per the requirements of here. And should it pass item, E section, change the date, July 1st, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that's my motion.
Good, I'm glad we did.
Got a motion. Jeff, you wanna restate that motion?
To approve by reference the City of Asheboro Urban Archery Deer Hunting Program ordinance with the modification of changing the effective date, if passed, to July 1, 2024. They said.
All right, now, do we have a second? Motion
Last
dies,
time I did this, I got beat 4-3.
motion dies for lack. Is there another motion?
Is there any other motion?
To table? I'll make a motion that we table this.
If you feel good about that?
I do feel good about that.
I
Well,
second that.
We have a motion to table.
Well, while we tabling it, we're gonna bring it up, keep bringing it up every meeting?
Well, my purpose in tabling it is for us to look at some other alternatives. So
Hang
if
on
I
a
need to
minute. Hang
rephrase
on a
my
minute.
motion, I can.
Hang on a minute. All right, I have a motion by Ms. Heath, a second by Mr. Sweet. Discussion. What's the purpose for tabling?
My purpose for tabling is for us to investigate some other options, because I think we can agree the deer problem is a problem, and we need to do something. We need to do something. So that's my purpose in tabling.
All right. Any other comments?
I would just suggest that if we do get some other information, that staff can bring it to our attention, that we've found other options in terms of what's working elsewhere effectively, and then we can just address it. I'm afraid if we just take it from when to the next meeting or just indefinitely, I think, let it die, lack of vote tonight, and if we find some new information that's worthy of our discussion, then
Okay.
staff will bring it to our attention.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
So you withdrawing your second? Is that what that was?
I didn't second it. I was just.
Charlie seconded.
I was just discussing. Yeah.
Well,
I'll withdraw my motion.
okay, Charlie. So Charlie, is withdrawing his second?
Yep.
Is that acceptable?
If you wish, the cleanest way is just to vote. If it doesn't pass, it doesn't pass.
All right, so I have a motion and a second
To table.
to table. All right, and we've had our discussion. All in favor of approving Kelly's motion to table, say aye.
Got 3 ayes,
We got 3 down, show of hands.
table.
Okay, was that, did you vote?
You didn't ask the question I was in favor of yet.
I thought I heard.
We're trying to get rid of the motion.
That's right.
We're just trying to get rid of the motion.
Show of hands. So the 3 on that end of the table voted to approve the motion to table. All opposed, like sign.
Aye.
Aye.
Show of hands. We got 4-3 to,
So parliamentary, what I understood Clark to say is just sitting there now.
okay, so there is no motion. The motion was defeated.
That's correct. Motion failed.
All right,
But I think it's worthy for staff to explore other jurisdictions, and if we find something that's working effectively, that you bring it to our attention, and then we can.
We'll take that as guidance, and we'll move forward with that.
You know, if we were to, if I understood correctly, have either professional or volunteer hunters, selected ones, you could probably police that in a less restrictive way if they were supervised or documented in a certain way, and they could have perhaps a little more leeway than a lot of these rules we put in here, and be more effective
Yes.
in harvesting the deer. And we'll have 10 known accurate arrow slingers instead of people that hit
All
a
right.
paper bullseye.
well, that was painful.
Yes, it was.
All right,
I will say this, though, Jeff, I appreciate your hard work and getting us something.
And
for
staff.
our
Yes,
discussion.
thank you.
Now back to them cats on my mama.
I was getting to say earlier, I see the cats getting caught up with bows.
Slingshot,
all right.
we can have slingshot season.
Mr. Nodal, you provide an update on last month's business item concerning the relocation of Highway North Carolina 159. Can we stop that?
That's what I'm gonna tell you.
That's good news and bad news. We had a meeting.
Yep. Yes, thank you, Mayor. I did tell the council last month that DOT was requesting specifically the council to repeal and enact a speed limit ordinance on Zoo Parkway as a result of its decision to remove the NC 159 designation from the roadway. In its place is a new secondary road number, SR 3017. The NC 159 designation, per this map, is being relocated to the zoo connector. So it will begin at the 64 bypass, take you into the zoo, and continue. We did have reservation about that decision. Earlier this week, Mayor Pro Tem Moffitt and I had a call with DOT where we did relay our concerns about that action and requested some information in terms of what was prompting that decision. We were told that it's primarily related to encouraging the use of the bypass to deliver visitors to the zoo. And so that seems to be the driving force in doing that, is to give a direct shot from US 64 to NC 159.
And this is coming from the people that didn't want to connect their road to start with. That we had the lobby.
Positions have evolved.
Let me interrupt
Sure.
right here. Jonathan, would you push the air up, please, a little bit? I think Holly and Debbie are probably about to freeze.
I will add that there was a strong contingency from the DOT. It wasn't just one clerk we spoke with. Reuben Blakely, division engineer, conducted the meeting, if you will, from their perspective.
Right.
And there was at least 5 other upper management people in that, all the way from district maintenance, to traffic.
They definitely took a serious.
Personnel put together for the question. I'll give them respect for that.
Now, did they, by reflagging this, do they believe that when somebody, I don't know who has a paper map anymore, we Google Trip or at Siri or whatever, that it'll say US 64 to NC 49? Is that, did they?
I think there was a question, something to that effect, and
We specifically asked them about map.
Right.
And with a paper map, that's a big deal. In the early days of Google and Waze, it was a moderate deal. But all of them were using active traffic satellite cam now that'll throw you on a route, and correct it right that minute. So even if it backs up, it's going to throw you to a different route. So it became less of a point. But I think the punchline is.
Well, yeah, our concerns, and we've talked about them here, was that in the future, when we go to the state as a part of the state prioritization process, would we be disadvantaged when it comes to pursuing what are scarce to make roadway improvements? We said that on several occasions, and the division was pretty clear with us that in their view, implications in terms of funding down the road.
They were following the scoring process, triad RPO at the division, regional, and state level, which in and of itself has no prioritization based on a number of project driven from the local jurisdiction.
How many homes we're talking about?
Well,
homes and businesses.
The main point of this is we'll get to. We had nowhere to go. We were in a vacuum, meaning John, Michael, Trevor, and myself. It essentially was already done. Now,
they looked at the speed limit.
The question that we had, that we started this with, was the premise was why our road? Not that we necessarily thought they were picking on us, but it just seemed so random. We then found out, as always, you know, Debbie will love this, there was a program. And so now we're impressed that little old 159 made it to US 311, Business 311 is now a state road. There is no 311 around them and all the way through Archdale.
Archdale to the interstate, it's been,
Old
it's hard.
421, as it goes through Sedgefield, all the way into Greensboro, where it comes out, where new 421 ties in at I-40. There through, that's no longer 421, our number. So those were the two biggest examples he gave us to unnumber these, what they consider a state road or a thoroughfare. I have no idea what's driving the change in this nomenclature for what seemed to be a system. We call them thoroughfares, like Church Street's a thoroughfare, you know, Rich Avenue's a street, if you will. You know, you got SRs and numbered highway, and then you got
US
state road, US, and then you got the interstate. But
So that leaves us in, you know, they heard our concerns. I think we'll have to ensure that in the future, you know, as we need improvements to Zoo Parkway, we loss of the designation, and this conversation that we had is negative implications in our ability to get funding. With that said, we do need to take action on the ordinances. The specific matter that brought us is in two separate motions. The first to repeal the ordinance on NC 159. Take that action first to repeal that speed limit. The second action would be to enact it, recognizing the secondary road number that the state has assigned to the roadway. So two motions, please, Mr. Mayor, two separate. Yes, sir.
The guys that sat there in that meeting with you and promised that it wouldn't have any effect will not be in that job next year or a couple of years from now. And the scoring system will be changed at some point to meet somebody else's whims, or
now,
ideal situation, and we're gonna get screwed in the end.
well, this is what we asked for. I mean, you know, if nothing else, Clark says you run out of information, just argue. You know, but I felt like keep on with gas or something. If the idea was to try to get push traffic to the 64 bypass, you know, taking their own words, and of course they believe, and I don't disagree with necessarily, the soccer complex is probably going to draw traffic to 159 either way, because it's coming in and out by eating establishments or this, that, and other, lesser state bars maybe. But anyway, we ask for signage, and John and I had already talked about that, on especially coming from the northeast and west, you know, because the south's just not as big a population center, but what's to add that to it. But on either end of the bypass, you know, 64, 49, and 64 over there, you know, whether it be brown sign or green sign, because you got to pay for a blue sign, to have signage, you know, Zoo City Sportsplex, exit 12, 6 miles, you know, if that's where you want them, let's get some signs up there and let's be directing them, because that was my other goal. I wanted that to stay a numbered road, but last couple of weekends I've sent John text, you ought to see the traffic out here, just like the zoo 5 years ago. You know, and I was bragging and complaining, and you know, because there's several cycles at 64 and Zoo Parkway. You know, the 4-car lot, but that's we've asked for that. They said we could get with sign department, and wasn't an ironclad promise. Said they'd do everything they could to get us brown side or green side.
Yeah, well, and what they asked us, and what is get them as Jonathan Sermon receives, you know, rentals, tournaments at the park, and we can have an idea of attendance. That will be helpful to them in terms of making
making the case for this additional signage. So that was a positive that came out of the meeting.
It was, the most economical thing we can do is we can rent that traffic counting thing, you know, and do it ourselves. You know, we don't have to hire DRMP to do it.
Yeah.
They said, get us some numbers and we'll put signs up.
Yeah, all right,
We'll see.
All right, so you have two actions necessary?
Yes, sir. The first is the repeal on NC 159, and then you will follow that with an enactment. Same speed effect now, it just is recognized in a different state road designation.
May I have a motion?
Mayor, I move we approve the certification to repeal the speed limit of NC 159.
Have a motion. Mr. Bell, do I have a second? Second. Mr. Short. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Mayor, I move we approve the certification to enact speed limit of 45 along State Road 30.
Have a motion by Mr. Bell for the second action here to enact speed limits and request for concurrence.
That little old road?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Burks. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Be better for business, Mayor, if we made it 35.
Whose business in particular?
Are they gonna ask us to do a roundabout down there at the sports place?
Not as of now.
We
Okay.
need some.
This is the appointed time comment period. Is there anyone in the audience tonight left that would like to address the council on any item of city concern or business? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 12.
Mayor, just for, on our consent agenda, just want to acknowledge, item C is the ordinance to amend the general fund for the maintenance on the rear of City Hall. Normally, we don't have, I met with Councilmember Trogdon earlier this week and just got him up to speed. Since this budget amendment does not require any movement on, just on the expense side, on the revenue side, that's why it's on the consent agenda. So I just wanted to thank Mr. Trogdon for letting me meet with him and get that up to speed. And,
Which item was it? I'm sorry.
yeah.
See.
Which item?
Item C. And we're here in an 85-year-old building, that's why we're having to maintain it.
Well, I made a mistake a while ago when I said going to 12, we're going to 11, consent agenda. Is there any other item on consent agenda that you want to remove for individual discussion?
And Mr. Mayor, one more, item H, Trevor communicated with you, council members, I think last month, we did get the urgent repair dollars. We've had some discussion about that and that's just the, grant application, so you know about that too.
Okay, hearing no request to remove any individual items, and having heard a couple of updates on the items that are on there, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as it is in front of you.
Mayor, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I have a motion by Mr. Burks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, motion carries. Now, number 12, legislative hearing with Mr. Nuttall.
Thank you, Mayor. This is rezoning 24-02. It is a request to rezone property at 1901 North Fayetteville Street from its current conditional zoning RA6 district to an amended conditional RA6 district. The development, the plan of which provided to you. This would allow a multifamily development with a floor area ratio of up to 22%. The applicant on this request is the property owner, Lynn Van Lorette Trust. It's just actually just adjacent to 1901. 1901 is the existing Arlington Square community. This, in essence, would be an expansion of that apartment community. The reason for this request is at the time that the property that we're looking at was zoned RA6 back in 2000, I believe. It was only placed in the district. At that time, the city had a different process for land use approvals, which required what's known as a conditional use permit to be issued in order for development activity to be authorized. So at that time, you could get a conditional district with no use authorized until you came back and presented those development plans. And that's what happened back in 2000. The property was placed in the district with the expectation that there would be a development plan in the future that would be provided. And that's where we're at today. You now have a specific site plan along with the rezoning request. It's 2 Randolph County pins that we're looking at, just under 16 acres in size, properties currently undeveloped. Before I go further, I do want to note that in accordance with state law, the letters to adjoining property owners notifying them of tonight's hearing has occurred, as well as a legal advertisement published in the newspaper. We've also posted zoning signs on the property. The property is outlined in blue. You can see the 2 parcels there. We're looking at property between Central Avenue and Balfour Avenue on the west side. If you look to the north of the property, that is North Asheboro Park, kind of on the northwestern side. As I said, this property is will essentially be an extension of the existing Arlington Square, which is to the east. The orange areas on this screen are already zoned high-density residential. The yellow are residential. You can see the red commercial corridor along Fayetteville Street, and then the purples are industrial district. This is wedged industrial land uses and zoning districts. On the screen, the parcels subject to this application are A1 and A2. D is the current Arlington Square community. I do want to point out that parcel C on this map is also owned by the applicant on this request. Parcel G is an apartment community to the south, and on this screen you can see that there is 100-year regulated floodplain that is on the property. As you look at the view, that 100-year floodplain is shown. The development activity is proposed to take place outside of that area. This is a topographic map. There is some terrain on the property. We have some sewer infrastructure that will have to be contended with as part of the. You can see that water line will be extended into the property to serve the development. Crosshatched area on this screen along Haskins Creek is a 100-year floodplain. Parcel outlined in red here, the 2 pins. See the development pattern in the area, the surrounding land uses, including those 2 multifamily communities. Got some self-storage to the southeast. Again, North Asheboro Park to the north, and Parkside to the west. This up against the common area open space that was platted along with the Parkside community. So there is some buffer naturally provided by this project and the neighboring to the west. map, give you an idea of a little different angle of the property outlined in yellow here. Got several photos. We're looking at the entrance to the current Arlington Square development. This project will continue to utilize that entrance. We did receive comments from DOT. They have told us, and we've shared with the applicant, that there will likely need to be an increase to those turn lane lengths or storages in order to accommodate the additional units that are proposed with this project. In your report, you'll see that there are 180 units. This time, they're proposed to be two-bedroom units that will be added to the property with this application if it's approved. Now, you can still see that entrance on the left. This is looking northward. Little another view there, and then view looking further south. This is Arlington Square community here. We turn to the analysis. The property is inside the city limits. It receives all, and is eligible to receive all city services. State US 220 is maintained by DOT. It is considered a major thoroughfare. The transportation's plan at the state level does identify improvements for this segment, which would be a widening to multi-lanes. However, those improvements are not within the funded portion of that plan. Need has been identified. The funding to make that widening is not yet in place at the state level. However, this development would do the necessary widening at the entrance in order to get the additional storage on those turn lanes. So in the future, we would expect a more significant widening on 220. Arlington Square, what's there now, was built in the late 90s. It's also owned by the applicant. There are 120 units within that existing community, 15 two-story structures. It also includes a clubhouse. The application before you this evening is to add 180 units to be contained within 15 three-story buildings. Typically, developments of this size require a full-time on-site property manager to be provided. The proposal here this evening is to allow the existing manager to continue to serve in that role as opposed to a secondary office for this particular development. Noted the plan shows access through the existing developments driveway on North Fayetteville Street. We do expect there to be improvements mandated by DOT. City departments have reviewed the plan related to our ability to serve the community, including with emergency, but also with just standard public services. I think ideally there would be a secondary way into the community, but there's really no good options. We discussed that with the applicant. You can see it from the parcel configuration. There's not really an apparent way to get a secondary access in. These buildings will be sprinklered under the state building code, so that does help in terms of public safety to know that will be a requirement. There's some recreational amenities shown on the plan. Those are expected by the city's development ordinance. There are some picnic areas. There's a pavilion. There's also a private 6-foot wide trail that is proposed to be available to the residents. I will note, council knows that this process of conducting a feasibility study for a public greenway along North Haskins Creek from Vision Drive to North Asheboro Park. It's very likely that feasibility study will recommend an alignment that is close to, if not on this property. And so we, as you look at the conditions at the end of our staff report, there is a suggestion that be accommodated if and when the city move forward with that project.
And Trevor, is that
Yes.
paved or natural surface?
Which one?
The greenway that's a part of this.
It'll be at their discretion. It could be very natural. we don't have an expectation that it be smooth surface, but it will have to be delineated. So it would have to be apparent that it is for pedestrian. I noted the western portion of the property is within that floodplain area. There are no structures contained within that area. Some maps are showing what looks to be a tributary to Haskett's Creek draining from east to west on the southern portion of the property. That's on the city's maps. If in fact that turns out to be jurisdictional, there'll be some mitigation processes that the applicant would have to go through with NCDEQ. We've spoken with the designer about that. They're aware of that potential issue. As we look at density or intensity of development, this request is proposing a floor area ratio, or that's the ratio of building square footage to total property square footage of 21%. That comes out, if you look at the density, we're at 11.4 dwelling units per acre that is requested. Arlington Square, the current Arlington Square has a floor area ratio of about 30%, 18.1 dwellings. In 1999, when that project was approved, the city, in essence, had allowed twice the amount of building intensity, square footage, resulting density than we do now. At that time, you could build up to 33% floor area ratio. Today, you're permitted only 17% unless you go through a public hearing process to get some additional authority to construct. So this is much less dense than the existing Arlington Square. It's about at what we typically see for these type of communities. As you propose greater densities or greater floor area ratios in the city's development ordinance, there are more expectations and standards that come with that request. Typically include stormwater, some architectural requirements, enhanced landscaping. This project is doing a lot of the things that we would expect for projects at our highest level of density, and they're kind of in the middle range here.
Clarify, dwellings are units, not buildings.
Correct. Dwellings are units.
They're units. So just to clarify the details, not
Sure.
about 11 buildings an acre like this. I mean, it's but one of those buildings per acre.
Correct. Yes, those are dwelling units per acre. That's correct. Number 8 in the analysis, we'll just provide you what the ordinance's intent for the high-density residential district and where those should be located. Always like to point out that an applicant can propose some deviations to what the city's predetermined development standards are. In this case, there are two. The first is the lack of recreational vehicle parking for residents that the city looks to have incorporated into these type of projects. That is covered by a staff condition, as we often do when an applicant is requesting to not provide area for such vehicles. We then ask that it be completely prohibited from occurring within the community. The second is a deviation that, if you look at your analysis in 10C, is requesting to not provide some buffering against a portion of the northern property that would otherwise be required to have some sort of buffer. The reason for that is that there are and have been two private access easements intended to serve adjacent properties in that same area where the city would look to be provided. So the applicant is requesting in that limited instance to not have to provide that, as it would conflict with the ability and the right of adjoining owner access of the property through that easement. This case had two reviews at the planning board. The first on February 5th. Subsequent to that, there was some additional details that the designer and applicant provided. The planning board heard this at this past Monday. and reviewed the additional information that's been provided. I'll say from the planning board, it does come to the council with a favorable recommendation. One of the things that we've learned as we've kind of had the applicant is that the size of this project, this is something that could be phased. It may not happen all at once. So that has led to us ensuring that there's thoughtful consideration of how you would provide turnaround and maneuvering areas at the end of the driveways as you get to different phases to ensure that emergency vehicles, public vehicles, delivery vehicles can navigate if the project does end up being phased. That was something new that came in a recent conversation. Not atypical for these type of projects. 12, if the rezoning's approved, we will have a requirement for subsequent zoning compliance permit and site plan, satisfying the conditions and all elements of the ordinance that are in effect. So I'll try to highlight a couple of things on the screen here in red, just to point out where that trail is highlighted in green, but otherwise you see the stormwater, probably a structural stormwater device to help with those impacts, at least for a 10-year storm. There's 2 areas that could provide that benefit. The area of the access easement I've kind of drawn in on the northern, or I've labeled it on the northern end of the property boundary. That's the proximity of where we would typically be looking for some sort of buffer against that adjacent undeveloped property. But there are easements are in place there that would indicate that could be challenging. You can see the pavilion is noted there, and just other elements I just wanted to highlight on the plan. See entrance through Arlington Square, existing phase, and then it'll branch off to the south, provide access. You'll be able to go straight through to a second access. So after you get a couple hundred feet into the project, you do have options. Our emergency services would have options to maneuver. I've distributed the building elevations. This is proposed to be, again, 3-story structure, first story masonry or brick cladding, second and third stories vinyl. The applicant did report to the planning board that those materials will be consistent around all buildings. So we've been provided this elevation here, but it is illustrative of those building materials to be used on all sides of the building. I wanted to give an idea from the applicant, a better idea of what the existing like in the current community. I just have 2 photos showing the current 2-story structure. We look to the land development plan. It's identified for urban residential or high density family development. It's within a primary growth area. Overall, we believe those 5 policies that are on the screen are generally supportive of this request. There's a few that tend to be a little more negative. They're related in large part to the need for some roadway improvements on 220 that are not yet funded, but the state will dictate requirements for safety as a part of this application. So the developer will make improvements to US 220 as a part of the project. We have a series of conditions here that we think are necessary to ensure continuing compliance with the ordinance. Real quickly, limit of 180 dwelling units with a floor area ratio of not to exceed 22%, that all parties sign off on these conditions prior to issuance of a permit authorizing construction. If you approve this tonight, that we receive written acceptance of those conditions. There are 2 solid waste areas that are proposed on the project by city staff. They should be sufficient, but D covers if we get in a situation those are determined to be inadequate, the city could mandate some additional provisions for solid waste disposal. We always like to know within public easements will not be maintained by the city, so those would be the responsibility of the owner. In the event that the city needs any type of easements for public infrastructure, oftentimes when that water is coming into the property and we're providing hydrants or needing hydrants to serve the development, that will lead to the city maintaining that water line. We would be looking for easements to do so at the time of construction of the project. F, parking recreational vehicle prohibited, as I mentioned. G covers the 10-year storm retention, and you saw the location that they would anticipate providing measures. Is intended to allow that easement to, or the North Asheboro Greenway to be accommodated if the project is on. That area would be within that 100-year floodplain outside of the primary developed areas of the property. Offer some flexibility in condition I in terms of how postal delivery is handled with the Postal Service. We did include a condition as in J, would allow for staff and the owner, developer, to contemplate future potential for a secondary access. So with condition J is if in the future there is developed property, an opportunity to a secondary access into the development that is agreeable to, mutually beneficial to that owner in the city, then that could occur, that we could work that out at the administrative level without that being deemed to be such a significant change that it requires re-review of the council. We just ask for that potential to, if that opportunity is presented. K handles the phasing of the project. L is related to infrastructure requirements. M is what we're looking for. If you approve this tonight, that information that would have to be provided to us before we release the project for construction. Finally, the owner sign our standard memorandum of land use restriction, which puts the conditions of this project, if approved, in the public registry for everyone to be able to find. Based on our analysis, we do think this is consistent with the plan. LDP since 2000 has designated for urban residential development. It's got adjacent multifamily development. We think with the conditions that have been proposed, have been presented to the applicant, I believe are acceptable to the applicant. We believe that the application is reasonable and do recommend approval along the board. Thank you very much.
Questions? Mr. Nuttall, noticed in there, and I'm mistaken, there is no plan for off-site, on-site parking for RVs.
There is adequate parking for the number of units. There's no storage area for recreational vehicles.
They're required to prohibit them.
And so therefore,
Exclude them by ordinance?
Yes, the ordinance, yeah, the district, ordinance for the district would prohibit it.
All right.
Today, and they didn't have any, so, in the current unit, so they're apparently going by that.
Other questions?
Those units are actually held up pretty well, given the rate.
Yeah, this property is well kept.
I think they're pretty responsive land management group, ownership group.
Trevor, you said that this would not have an on-site residential manager. Is the other part of this, does that have an on-site manager?
That's our understanding. There is, at the entrance, there is a clubhouse and a leasing office with management that's available within that facility.
Okay.
Do we have a motion?
Mayor, based on the consistency.
Sorry.
Oh, yes.
You want to ask if?
Oh, yep.
Oh,
yep.
this is a public hearing.
Yes.
Been so long since I opened the public hearing. Is anyone in the audience that would like to address the council regarding this request?
Mayor, I think we need to ask the applicant a question, if you may.
Christian Vestal, 150 South Fayetteville Street. I'm with Summit Engineering, and we are representing the applicant tonight. If there's any additional questions that may be answered this time, I could address those, but we would have. Go ahead.
Proposed conditions, as staff has proposed, amenable to the applicant?
Yes, they are.
Any questions?
But the
Mr.
DOT
Vestal?
is gonna require the turn lanes, right? Right on that.
Upon a traffic impact analysis study and at the additional unit count that would warrant more storage, that would be applicable.
Well, quite a pothole there you just showed. That's right. Yeah, that is a state road, a US road. All right.
Likely there's a pipe underneath there, and I wouldn't ask.
No other questions. All right. Thanks, sir. Had to wait all night for that. Now.
And now, Mayor, based on the consistency statement forwarded staff, I think I would move that we approve the consistency statement as well as the conditional zoning together with all of the recommended requirements by staff, conditions.
By Mr. Bell, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Burks. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right, Mr. Nodal, I'm sorry, Mr. Roney.
Good evening.
Good
evening.
So, to speak to you about a planning the WL Brown Water Treatment Plant. And we are talking about emerging contaminants, which is something you're going to hear me say a lot more. The bipartisan infrastructure legislation passed in November had a lot of money in it for addressing water infrastructure and particularly PFAS issues. North Carolina received $469 million in this legislation, and its focus was safe water across the state to improve water quality and the infrastructure. It included money for lead pipe and service inventory and replacement, which we have received some funding, and addressing emerging contaminants, particularly PFAS. Funding is also available to eligible drinking water systems, aka City of Asheboro, to do planning studies to address how we are going to treat PFAS in our planning can be in the form of assessments, assessment studies, pilot testing and treatment technologies, design and alternatives analysis for future construction projects, and pre-construction planning projects. This is principal forgiveness, which is a grant. We should receive it free and clear. That's what they say. And the application deadline is of this year. But one of the requirements is approve applying for the grant. So that's why we are here tonight, is to ask you to pass a resolution for it.
What do we know about our water and PFAS?
We have it, and we will have to treat it.
Because it seems to be very prevalent.
Mm-hmm. And we will score very high on this numbers.
And it arrives to us in our raw water.
It's in our raw water, yes.
It's amazing to me what this is.
Is it in our lake water too, Mark?
Yes, it is.
So you mentioned that you're anticipating this being a grant.
Yes.
And you also said that's what they Assuming that's why the
yes.
loan language
Yes,
is in there.
we have to
because
put the
we
loan,
don't know,
we have to put the
like,
loan language in there, but it's specified as being principal forgiveness, yes.
Got it.
Where did this money come from? Where was it?
It's the bipartisan law, the
Is it
2021 legislation, yes.
Bipartisan infrastructure law.
So, but it,
Funding is
it's not
still,
part of the class action suit.
no, and that's totally separate.
That's
And
separate.
we are in that class action suit as well.
This grant money is accessible by private water system. In material.
It actually, you could read in there, you possibly could, yes.
Interesting.
Other
I
Today.
was a little-
questions?
I was a little bit confused about this. Now, what are we asking for the money for specifically? To study it or to build something? or what?
We know we are gonna have to, we know we're gonna have to install treatment, so we need to go ahead and have a plan we're going to do. This law hasn't, the rules haven't been adopted yet for this rule. It's still, EPA hasn't even, approved the testing method yet. Yes, we're using the method they are going to approve, but it hasn't been approved yet.
Are you testing it in-house or out?
No, we can't in-house, it's impossible. It's a send it to Ohio is the place we can find a test. So.
That's pretty expensive, I'll bet.
How much is it?
But still, I don't understand what is the, if we get the grant, what are we gonna use the money for?
We are going to use the money, okay, you're going to use that money to consultant to come in, evaluate our water, and provide us some options for treatment techniques, and come up with a plan to move forward with construction for a treatment process.
But it probably won't be for the construction. It's-
It will not be for construction, this is just
Get it
planning,
going.
yes.
All right,
Mhm.
I got you.
With that, we will have 3 years to comply. So we need to have a plan in place to proceed.
See by some sort of like a green sand filter, or this be more
This-
like a chemical treatment of sequestration?
This is granular activated carbon is really the way, is the top treatment out there right now.
Then what do you do with the byproduct?
That's the problem. It's not dealing with the byproduct.
What do you do with the byproduct?
You send it to Pennsylvania to get it.
Put it on a barge and run it.
No, we
down
send
the
it
coast
to the one place in the country that can treat it and give it back.
That's Pennsylvania.
Give it back to us.
They remove it, whatever they do, and they give us our.
That's up for $5-6 a ton.
All right, other questions? All right, Michael has a, resolution. Approve our reference.
Thank you.
May I have a motion?
Mayor, I'll move we approve this resolution for a state grant/loan as presented on this W.L. Brown Water Treatment Plant Emerging Contaminants Planning Project.
Have a motion by Ms. Heath. Do I have a second?
Second. Down here on the end.
Down there.
Way out here.
Way down yonder. Mr. Cogdill makes the second. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Good job.
Mr. Sermon?
I must say, I feel much more than I do when y'all move me up.
We thought we were doing you a favor.
I do, I know, I appreciate the offer, but it is nice to be back at the end. So I am here to provide an update on a possible leasing agreement for McCrary Park, but just a couple quick little housekeeping measures I need to mention. This is your action meeting for the process to finalize a possible lease agreement with Zookeepers Baseball LLC. As part of that, you did pass a resolution in January to have it advertised. It was advertised. That is why we are here tonight. At your February meeting, we did provide you with a copy of the proposed lease for your questions. Then at your special meeting in February, you advised staff to provide you additional information on possible other leases of the, not the same type, but you should have all received a packet with 6. When staff compiled those, we tried to keep it limited to Coastal Plain League teams playing at either municipal or government facilities. Those are the 6 that we were able to come up with. Just as a quick summary, as you probably noticed, there's a wide gambit of, there's no special formula, there's no set fee. It ranged everywhere to a fee of $50,000 a year.
And even a per game and $1 a head and $20 an hour pay the light bill.
Yes, so it's basically up to, what works best for the community that that team or that lease resides in. That's not to make y'all's job harder, but it does, it's for y'all to.
Would you just be?
Well,
I tell you one thing that I thought was noteworthy, at least, you know, to draw some parallel to our situation. Pitt County, and I would imagine Greenville, with their leasee, they had an agreement that the leasee put in $500,000, city put in $500,000, some sort of improvements, and not having any earthly idea of what the age of their place was and all like that. But and granted, our ratio is not as strong as 50-50, but we did raise over $2 million that showed up from private money. I thought that's just pretty significant that we did pretty well for ourselves in that category. Just to say that. Penalties, with one exception, they paid all the utilities. I mean, the city pays all the utilities. Keep up the outside the grounds and this, that, and the other. And the leasee cleans up the bathrooms, takes care of all the general stuff.
Correct, yes.
You know, so we've got a few things off the table.
Right.
Is what seemed to be common. Terms look like they went anywhere from 3 years all the way up to 14 years.
Yes, it's a wide variance.
And that probably had a lot to do with maybe, and I don't know what these franchises cost or not, or if they pay you to take them or whatever, but I'm sure there's ramifications in each little market.
Well, in that specific example, that's actually, that team is, the leasee is the owner of the league, Capital Broadcasting.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah. And then.
And that is a brand new.
And in the 50,000 one, I didn't know how to compare Cobb County, Georgia demographically with us.
Right, yeah. That just fell into the apples to apples, where it was a Coastal Plain League team, yep.
Well.
Cobb County, that's Atlanta,
Just making.
Yeah, making Cobb. Well, looking at this, I think you've done quite a good job at remaining neutral and being Switzerland and providing us with no pattern whatsoever. I commend you for your neutrality.
I did my best, yes. But that's all I have to report, so being neutral, I will turn it over to you unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you for doing that.
Yes, sir, not a problem.
Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
What kind of action are we looking for here, John, David? I mean,
We've met as Jonathan mentioned, to the general statute, so at this point, you just give us guidance as to how you want us to proceed. We've done the mandatory, two meetings. We do need, whatever we come up with tonight, we need to discuss with the leasee. We've not done that yet. That'll be part of the
let me ask a couple of
too.
parameter questions, if you would indulge me. In reading through some of these, some of these leases were very specific to that one ball club, and I mean, and they paid like per game.
Right.
And you know, and in terms of the lease that we're looking at, and the zookeepers organization that we'll just kind of collectively refer to as the Pews. Now, how does that relate to the Legion play? I know the high school play is obviously independent of
right
of that, but What is
Kiwanis
Kiwanis?
Club is the parent sponsor of of American Legion.
And Ronnie's
However,
just the coach, I mean, and that's.
Ronnie's the coach, and the zookeepers support them if they need travel or something.
Okay, so most of the relationship between zookeeper and Legion is benefactor.
Kiwanis Club put money
They don't own the team, they
into
don't
our-
sponsor the team.
That's right.
So in theory, whatever we do about this, we probably need a memorandum of understanding with the high school and with the Legion Club, at least to memorialize what we expect out of those folks as well.
That thing to do.
And perhaps, at least with the Legion thing, we could even tack that burden of cleaning up over there onto the zookeepers. And just, if they got people, cause don't the seasons kinda, how much do they overlap?
The seasons of the zookeeper season and American Legion runs the same time.
So they're just alternate days?
They're alternate days, so that's really our busted season.
Okay.
Almost every night.
So the term that the actual active use, I mean, we could say $1 a year, or $10,000 or $100,000 a year, but the actual use of this for practice and whatever, just basically kind of the same as the Legions.
The intense use is May 15 to August 15, plus or minus.
So, and, of course, basically things dormant in the winter, so it's kind of immaterial, but, so what would that be, 4 months?
Yeah.
About 4 months, okay.
The Kiwanis Club did make a gift to the playground that was built over there as part of the new park.
Right.
And, the zookeepers actually are the host agency and bid the Southeast Regional, which is American Legion Baseball, that brings teams from 7 states to Asheboro for a week-long tournament. And the zookeeper are out of pocket on that. They provide all the volunteers, they run it, they bid on it,
Well, it's clear from reading these leases that, even the $50,000 one, I mean, it's highly subsidized as a quality of life issue. I mean,
That's the decision made by every community to have the team. And they run from,
probably can't get the franchise without doing it. I mean, Lord, would Charlotte pay for a Panther Stadium? I mean, we
you
did
get all the way till Martinsville, which the team is owned by the city.
one of your leases spent the first 7 or 8 paragraphs talking about economic development and.
Oh, they did. And just cause this is nicer than that, it don't change the marketplace of what it'll bring, although I think we've got a lot of tournament play that High Tom doesn't.
That's correct.
That they do not get. And I would suggest this, just, you gotta have a starting place, and that's the reason you go to Chevrolet place, they got a sticker on there. You don't just get to wander up and say, what if they take $12 for that? No, they know it's $50,000.
Right.
No matter where you end up. And I'll just throw one out the blue. What if we pick, say, $20,000? Any number you want to.
You have to give, that's the point that we're at.
And then,
The mayor and I,
go see what
Jonathan,
they can stand.
That's exactly what we need tonight.
Cause I don't know enough about their business model. I mean, right, I'll say, golly, they won't work, or, I'll say, that's a bargain, you dummy, you should ask 10 more, I'll say that.
But
we need a starting point.
And the mayor and I and Jonathan need guidance to sit with them. So if that's the number you wanna start out with.
I don't, it was about the middle of this. I was discounting it a smidge of halfway just cause I don't know that the dollar's too cheap and we not Cobb County, so.
There you go.
what are the parameters on that? I mean, time-wise, is that just for the season?
28,000 a year.
Annually.
Well, that was my point. I was question.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
Is there responsibly, physically, or actually, is there a difference between a year or 4 months they actually use it?
Well, if we're leasing it, then we're
We need to be
seating,
specific.
yeah, because, yeah, exactly, because there needs to be
a definitive either what they can do and what they can't do. And I'm just talking about, and they spell it out in some of these other ones.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, additional, events or additional use of the field beyond that point has to be approved.
Yeah, concert, for instance, there's another place they got the money, the ticket sales or something.
Yeah, we need, you know.
And that's where we're different.
We don't
With us
charge for parking.
Well, and with
Well,
the.
it's against the
with-
rules to charge
with-
for parking in 3 of these leases.
Yeah.
With the Legion team playing in that period, there's no nights. You know, if it rains one night, sometimes we'll have 3 games.
Double headers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
double headers.
Triple
So-
headers.
Yeah, so in that window, that May 15 to August 15, it is essentially, I mean, every day or every afternoon. Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, Saturday night, Friday, double headers on Sunday.
But is that what we're talking about, the lease being?
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Till August 15th, and then it's over, the season's, well, I mean, after the playoffs or after when you.
Right,
you know.
right.
After about the August 9th through 10th, and that's dictated by the state champion going to Shelby for the World Series. But that's when the season is over, the first week in August. 2 weeks ago, the Zookeepers hosted a college doubleheader on Saturday.
Yes, Guilford College couldn't play at their place, so they.
And then on Sunday, they had a single game.
Correct.
Game on Sunday. So,
Is there compensation involved in any of that?
No, sir. Well, not compensation to the city.
Who gets
I can't
compensated?
speak to compensation to what?
Does that come through us or the zookeeper organization?
Went through the Zookeeps organization, because as of this moment, there is no policy set for me to rent or lease McCray Park at any fee by council. So everything has to be done through the previous lease, which also in the new lease, that's what's under ancillary events. That's what it falls.
So that's why we wanted to get this in front of you. We got a new park out. The team's taking.
which is not finished.
And let's be honest, they're our friends the Pews, but they're taking the team to they've made a significant investment.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
we need some guidance from the council, so the mayor and I and Jonathan can go sit down, hammer out with your guidance and get feedback from them. Like I said, we don't know how their revenue stream or anything, so that's what we're asking for tonight. So if you think 20,000 is a good number to start out with, then we can do it a year. We don't have to, we can do to be reviewed every year, 5 years, I mean, whatever we'll have to come back with all that anyway from you, but we didn't want to start without getting guidance from you. That's what this whole process is.
So if you're looking at that dollar figure, and you say a year, you mean 12 months?
A season.
Yeah.
Or that's what you.
May 15th.
That's the
Well, they
starting
play-
point.
The Zookeepers host fall ball.
Yeah.
They are the sponsor agency for fall ball.
Right.
But it's generally high school age players, the Legion teams, kids that play Legion ball will be out there playing. And once August is over and the World Series is over, then they start, I don't know exactly what they're, it goes right on up
Runs from
to
Labor Day till the end of October.
Labor Day till the end of October.
But it's not the bread and butter of the park, and it's not the intense season.
It's development.
So we could hammer out, we could
8 games a week for 8 weeks.
yeah, we could do the Zookeepers and then when you host fall ball, and that's a different period or something. We'll hammer out, we'll make it as specific as possible. Council's reaction that the one we're under is the most open-ended
Well,
as possible.
I'd like to, every one of these things also said non-exclusive. You know, contemplate things. And I think your cleanest, simplest transaction is for it to be annual in terms of having a term. Now, I don't know if that's right or appropriate. I mean, just whether, The fact that we've leased it to them December and January, February, I'm not too worried about them wearing it out.
But if we do it annual and we're looking at agreements with the high school and with Kiwanis.
But it's non-exclusive.
Oh, right, okay.
It's non-exclusive.
I think the agreement with the high school and the American Legion's gonna be an understanding of what their responsibilities are.
And that's why you need to memorialize those details in a memorandum of understanding. This is the document scenario. Would you agree with it?
Yes, and I'd say the other option on that, in addition, same as whatever the policy preference of the council is, now I may have mentioned it before, is to move the McCray Ballpark into the category of the city's other recreation facilities, which are all subject to usage policies set up in the manual. And now there's not. So if the manual has a layout, what can be done outside that agreement, and I'll just go with the sportsplex. You've got the sportsplex within the manual, and the manual makes a reference to the why as far as what the benefit it gets as a partnership. The same sort of deal could be worked out to where the McCray Ballpark is a venue that's regulated by the rec manual, and it sets out where there are references, where it will allow agreements to control, but then otherwise, it's set up to say this is the arrangements that's with the school, or if Jonathan has some other event come through that wanted to, that would be the authorization of the council.
And what's the timing of that, Jeff? When should we do that?
Necessarily how
It would be ideal, as soon as we had guidance to draft it and put it in place,
Okay.
would be the ideal way to do that.
They gave us some.
If that's what you
And
want.
that way, conflict would be resolved
Exactly, by the manual.
I mean, we would have the final say.
The council would set the parameters for how
The
conflicts
city
are
would have the
resolved.
final say as if there was a dispute or disagreement.
That's right.
That's one option for how you can do that.
I mean, I think for
We got it.
consistency
And then we go see.
about
Right,
our
we got it.
athletic parks, it might make more sense to
Yeah, we don't have
do that, put it in the manual.
Every other venue is handled
Got it.
that way.
It ain't a buck, it ain't 50.
So, yeah, and if we get to have the rolling stock, I'll make sure that we all get really good seats when we get to revenue.
One.
So is that what, is the council okay with that? Giving us guidance, the mayor and Jonathan and myself, to go with the $20,000 a season. We want to do the season, not a per year, right? 'Cause
I don't have a preference.
How would, I mean,
I'd go.
how would that play? You were referencing.
We can craft the manual to reflect what
Okay.
are the most intensely interested in, the biggest item, big ticket item, and then around that. If I might suggest, since the city has spent money to advertise and get this in a position for you to take action, when you feel comfortable, the issue too quickly, but when you feel comfortable, it would be appropriate, it would say, to entertain a motion to continue this matter, since it's already been advertised, to the next regular meeting with a specific direction that with whatever parameters you want to put in, to count back a document that reflects the results of that discussion item to at least vote on, to reject, or to specify where you want additional changes at.
I would move that we continue this discussion till the next regularly scheduled meeting with the direction to.
We're gonna talk with the pews.
Yes.
Find out more what they're.
Yes.
and Get some idea of how much revenue they take
Yeah,
in,
so we
whatever,
will-
so we will be fair about it.
Yeah, right.
Okay, all right.
Part of my motion.
Have a
Well,
motion,
Jonathan and John and Beth speak.
have a motion by
two people's
Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Relative to these.
Second, Mr. Burks. Okay. Discussion.
Do we need to include the manual, including it in the manual at this point, Jeff, as part of the motion?
I think if it's acceptable, we'll interpret the motion as included.
Okay.
That's acceptable.
Thank you.
Discussion. Any questions, discussion? Anything down there?
Are we sticking strictly to the 20? Are we gonna look at electrical or any other things? We still
I'm
cleaning?
sorry,
I said, are we looking at anything besides the 20? I mean, these other places reference some of the electrical payments, cleaning the stadium after,
We
or
got-
reimbursing the city if they don't clean it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we'll beat around all these
The only
ideas.
one that where the team paid the electrical was, if I'm reading right, it was Thomasville. and they were-
Well, there was another one in there that said they paid for service, but the team paid for the usage. I mean, you know, I'm on, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you know.
They was some terms and
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
unusuals,
And we can get some idea how much power it's gonna cost up there, right, too?
We got
Yeah,
it.
yeah. in
We
fact,
got that.
we
Got that, right,
actually have
right.
that.
Have that.
I think clearly it's very open-ended. Only commonality I saw is, it looked like the team did all the cleanup of the restrooms, and furnished all the supplies for that, and other than
Yeah.
the city seemed to do the outside maintenance, all the hard work, you know, hard surface work, but yeah, I agree. There's
Only,
many more details to work out. They're just trying to get somewhere to start some conversation.
yeah, it's a good place to start. The only difficulty with having someone else do the bathroom cleaning or the cleaning of the grounds is that they're not gonna do what you expect. I mean, they're not trained to do that, and we got guys that do that every single day, the middle of February, right through fall ball. And, I mean, it's pretty much a science.
I don't disagree with that, but if we take that on, it'll be part of our consideration.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's not contributing for.
right. Well,
Leaders, two different things.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
we didn't make the
and
mess, but we cleaning it up.
yeah, we,
Well, that's what I do for a living.
yeah, we took that guidance to be taking these broad parameters and hammering out something.
You needed approval to go.
That's correct.
So go see.
Somewhere to start. So, we have a motion and a second table this meeting. Awaiting further input from Jonathan, the manager, and the mayor, based on conversation with the zookeeper baseball. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Just so we're not, we raised $600,000 community for that.
I would say that we raised another 7 from the community because from the taxpayers of Asheboro.
Well, you saw sales tax numbers that.
I did.
Keep going up, keep going up. We're on everybody's radar, the sportsplex is gonna start. I wouldn't say the sportsplex will ever pay for itself,
Well, but
but it's damn well on the way to making, covering its cost.
then that's what we need to do.
Yep.
In government accounting, we saved $3.6 million. We spent. But we the government.
Is that the way y'all count down there in the county?
The way I can.
No comment?
We made $1 million buying, cause if we bought 3 of them.
All right, did I call for a vote? I did not call.
Not yet.
You did?
Not
I
yet.
did.
Not yet.
Favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion to table is successful. We will do it next month.
Let's stick it to the wireless company. Move along.
All right.
Oh, yeah, I can get, Siri will wake me up tonight.
All right, Mr. Sugg, you have, you got a request of public or legal notice of agreement with New Singular Wireless PCS LLC. Go right ahead.
Yes, sir. Asking you at this time to have to debate about specific. New Singular PCS LLC, their managing member is AT&T Mobility. They have existing array water tank on South Church Street. They have been a considerable amount of time. We've gone through extended negotiations. We're to a point now to where their lease expires in 2025. We will have a bridge agreement that continues the current rate to 20. Then there will be a 10-year term if you approve the agreement. They, in principle, have agreed for the first 5 years of that 10-year term in 2025, there will be an increase in the rent, and then there will be a second increase in the rent for the second 5 years we pay. But I'll be bring the specific lease to you and the specific amount. I just need to get your authorization before city funds are expended to advertise the notice, to run the notice. 30 days is required. You will not see it coming back to you until May for the simple fact that it's March 7th. Our regular April meeting is April 4th, so I will not have time to get the 30-day notice in, but that will be back for you in May, and I'd ask for a motion authorizing me to run the legal notice.
It's taken them a year to get to this point.
We've been in negotiations for about a year.
As poor as your signal is, I don't know why they keep the thing up.
Well, mine was down about 3 days this week.
It doesn't expire until 2025, so they had time to talk, and there have been multiple representatives.
That's a negotiating tactic.
Wait till the bitter end.
Questions of Mr. Sugg? No questions? Well, it's been a long and tedious and drawn-out process. I appreciate your work. Since there are no questions, I'll call for a motion.
Approve the request to authorize the publication of the legal as requested.
No motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Heath. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Sugg is authorized to publish a legal notice of proposed lease agreement for the array on the water tower. I will ask for a motion to go to closed session to discuss attorney matters that fall under attorney-client privilege.
I would like to request a motion that we now hold a closed session to discuss with our attorney matters that fall within the attorney-client privilege, specifically including a pending contested case in the Office of Administrative Hearings concerning a final MPDES permit renewal.
I have a motion. Do I have a
Second.
second? Mr. Burks. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Mr. Wagner, Sergeant.
Thanks for being here.
Captain Wagner.
Hope Haywood.
Clearly, you're not here to give pointers on how to do it.
Turn in your paperwork.